And welcome into the Tuesday edition of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, brought to you by Volunteer State Bank. Real people, real solutions right here. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender, Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode back in the house today. Michelle Knezovic as well here with you on this Tuesday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Joe, welcome back to Nashville. How's it going?
Thanks. Is that working?
I think we're turning you back up. There you go.
Okay. Thanks. How you doing?
Sorry, Joe.
That's all right.
We're wonderful. How are you?
Fine. I'm sorry that yesterday I put cold water on Urban Meyer. This is what I get for ever listening to Kaharski. I never will again. And other people in the press box, too, were like, oh, no, that's old. He had Ohio State stuff on. That's old. Then I see you guys, or Michelle sends a thing yesterday. I'm like, oh, that actually happened this weekend? My goodness. So I'm sorry.
It's okay.
That was misinformation by me on the show yesterday. Boy, Urban Meyer, man.
It's off to a great start down there, isn't it?
It makes for, it's like I feel like for the Titans this week, it's dangerous still.
Oh, yeah.
It could be real bad, and it could be, a bad Sunday and a bad start to an unbelievable stretch. But then again, the Jags have this going on.
Yeah.
What a beautiful AFC South just, matchup of issues.
So Urban Meyer is 0-4 to begin the season, which I don't know that the 0-4 part of this is all that surprising. Although, they have played the Bengals and they've played the Houston Texans. So I kind of thought they'd beat Houston, but they didn't. They're 0-4, and now your head coach is caught up in this scandal where he's out in public with people he's not supposed to be with out in public. It's the curse of the Jacksonville Jaguars continues right along. It's good stuff out there.
It's just a weird story. I don't know. He's talking about he has he was with his grandkids having dinner, and then
they wanted to come take a picture, which that may have been. That may have been how that started, but seeing the pictures and the videos, there was more than picture taking going on. Whatever they were doing over there.
Right. So he's dancing with her, but then he says that she was trying to entice him on the dance floor.
Yeah.
Right. And then he also.
I wonder if he knows there's a video out.
Well, right. There's various videos.
Yes, there is.
Also, he mentions Trevor Lawrence going to bachelor party in Vegas, which was months ago.
Yeah.
What? Huh?
Trevor's the adult on the team.
Yeah.
Trevor, coach in QB1.
Jeez.
Right. What does that have to do with anything?
Well, what he was trying to, and I heard part of that explanation was, when Trevor told me he was going to Vegas for his bachelor party a few months ago, basically his general message was, oh, man, just be careful because there's people always out there wanting to catch you do something. And I guess he was trying to relate that back to his situation.
So he's trying to tell people how dumb he is.
I guess so.
By using that story. Yeah, it's it's interesting. So does this? Obviously everyone's having a field day with it now. It's been an incredible. Just you go back to hiring Chris Doyle and all this stuff and the fines and Tebow, whatever. Yeah. It's just been one thing after another. Does this have any effect on them this week as a team?
I don't know. Look, it's a huge distraction, obviously, and Urban did a press conference about it yesterday, and we'll hear more of that a little bit later in the show. But the players are going to be asked about it. Trevor Lawrence at some point is going to be asked about it. And look, I thought Dan Orlovsky on ESPN brought up a good point yesterday of, if you're a player in that locker room and Urban Meyer is your head coach and he has preached, accountability and making sacrifices and making sure you're doing the right things out there in public and all these different things, and then you see this video come out of your head coach after a game where you lose and he hangs around and he's out doing whatever he was doing in this video, how do you follow that guy if you're a player in the locker room? Orlovsky was like, straight up, I would not want to play for this guy anymore if I saw him doing something like this. So, look, I don't know. I don't know how players are going to respond to this in the Jacksonville locker room. As far as it affecting them on the field, they're not very good. to begin with, so I don't know how much of a negative effect it's going to have, but it is certainly not something you want to be dealing with 4 games into your head coaching tenure if you're Urban Meyer.
See, I hear what Dan Orlovsky's saying there, okay? And yet I think when Antonio Brown scores a touchdown for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're pretty happy to have him on their team.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
But isn't there a difference between
there is.
head coach and
There
player?
is, absolutely. But my point is, if Urban's coaching good, then they're fine. Like, he's got a good plan. Okay, they called good plays. He's putting us in position to win. Then this is okay, great, whatever. I mean, people don't go home on the team flight sometimes. This happens.
Right.
If he's coaching bad, well, then it's just one more thing to throw on the pile. Like, what's up with this guy? You know. So, I mean, I hear Dan, but if this was a good team. I think it would be just a totally different kind of view of it. And right now, everyone is waiting for Urban to totally fall all over himself and fail. And again, I mean, apparently he's just completely obliging. I'm still don't totally trust it, though. I don't totally trust that it's just going to be a complete disaster all the way.
I don't either,
And
but
if
it's trending
it
that
isn't,
way.
and if it isn't a complete disaster all the way, man, people are going to be mad. I mean, look. We'll see. It's not impressive. This was stupid, but the guy can coach. He's been incredibly successful at the college level. Can he take it to the NFL? You know, right now it doesn't look good. I'm. It's like the dude from Return of the Jedi. Admiral Akbar.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
I think this could all be a big trap. We'll see. But again, like I think the reaction is one because people don't like Urban. Which is totally understandable. And also, it's just easy to pile on because they're so bad.
Yeah, I mean, look, Urban's a very polarizing figure.
Who's a good coach who people like in this league?
I'm trying to run through my head.
Let's take Sean McVay.
Sean McVay.
If this exact same thing happened with Sean McVay and he's like some goofy dancing on the dance floor with a random woman at the bar, it would still be a story and stuff. But do you think the Rams people would be like, oh my God, I could never play for this guy again?
Probably not.
Yeah. So, but hey, that all goes together. I mean,
now he is married. There is that.
McVay's not?
I don't know if McVay's married or not. I don't know.
Well, that's a huge part, no doubt. Yeah, I mean, if you're single, who cares?
Yeah.
No doubt. And that's another thing Urban says, I apologize to my family. They weren't happy. I'm like, gosh.
Yeah, probably not.
This falls under the category of dumb bleep to hurt the team.
Yeah, it does.
That's right. But I still, and I've seen it. I haven't seen, I guess apparently there's some other video.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't see the video either. I just saw the picture.
I saw one, and you could. I mean, I can't look at it and know for sure it's anything other than just some stupid interaction at a bar. Like, okay, a little dance. You know what I mean? Like, is Urban Meyer seriously think he can go into a bar and try to actually hit on a woman and hook up with what?
The alternate video, yes, he is.
Really?
Yes.
All right, you got to show me this thing.
I don't know if you want to see it, but yeah.
Oh, I want to see it because it still seems to me like just kind of silliness at the bar.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know.
Heck of a start for the Jags.
No, if that's the case, then just I don't know. Yeah, fire Urban. I don't know.
Oh man. Hey, the Chargers got it done last night. The Raiders no longer undefeated. Chargers 3-1. Kansas City still in last place in the AFC West, by the way. Chargers are pretty good. I did not buy into the big Chargers hype that everybody else was preaching throughout the offseason. So far, I look very wrong. Chargers are very good.
Yeah, Herbert is good. The defense is good. They got a lot of good players. They've drafted really well. Eckler is super underrated in this league. And, they really handled it. The Raiders had a little – I mean, first of all, was that like a more pro-Raiders crowd than Chargers crowd last night? It seemed like it.
Could have been.
Jason Fitz, I saw. He had the Raiders, the silver and the black face paint going.
It's good stuff.
Tough loss for Fitzy. But, that's it was pretty impressive. Unimpressive was that, Derek Carr can't just, complete a couple passes and give me my first fantasy football win of the year, but that's okay.
Joe Rexrode, 0-4.
0-4.
Actually, I mean, I can't really speak because I think I've won one. Actually, I have. So
Michelle's 1-3.
I'm 1-3.
And I think Brennan's like 2-2.
He's 2-2.
Yeah, that's a problem, man.
Yeah.
Is Legault 4-0?
Legault's 4-0.
Yeah, that's just.
I'm 3-1.
Nice. Yeah.
Thank you. It's a real honor.
I might have a Detroit Lions-like season here.
So there are 2 divisions in the AFC that now have 3-1 teams. AFC North, the Bengals, the Ravens, the Browns, all 3-1. AFC West, the Chargers, the Raiders, the Broncos, all 3-1. And the AFC West is crazy because I still think the best team in the division is probably the Chiefs, and they're 2-2.
Yeah.
I think we're about to find out. And I know Teddy Bridgewater just got hurt, so that's going to play a factor into it anyway, and we'll see when he can come back. I think we're about to find out that the Denver Broncos, not quite as good as people thought they might have been to begin the season with the schedule that they had.
That's the thing. So the 2 best divisions are the West. I mean, all the good football's out in the West this year. But the NFC West is still absolutely better because that's 4 legit teams. Yeah, there's 3. I'll call the Raiders legit. I think that they're like going to be in the hunt for a playoff spot.
Yeah.
But I think it's a Chargers-Chiefs division, and yet the Broncos are Jets, Giants, Jags. Find me like a better 3-game start, in the last 20 years for a team. I bet you there's like a couple that could match that one. They are a total paper Bronco.
Nice.
Yeah, but the Chargers, like a week ago, I was like, oh, that Rams hype is legit after they trounced the Bucks. Maybe the Chargers hype is even more legit because I was a little more skeptical about that stuff. But he's good, man.
He is.
He's good.
And then there's the AFC East. Congratulations to the Buffalo Bills for already wrapping up the AFC East.
I roll.
4 weeks in.
Yeah, golly.
Hey, my Steelers still beat them.
That's true. They're 3-1. The Dolphins 1-3. Patriots 1-3. Jets 1-3. The Bills point differential is +90. They're +90 4 weeks in.
So what are they the last 3 weeks?
Well,
it's about
they just won 40-0,
whatever, right? Yeah. I mean, playing the Texans, that's the thing.
Help.
The Titans still get 2 of those. Playing the Texans is going to be very good for you as a team.
What did Davis Mills end up with passing-wise on Sunday? I need to go find it because at halftime, I think he had 3 yards. 3 yards passing
right?
at halftime. Yeah, he had 3 yards at halftime.
My gosh. I mean,
he ended up with 87. 11 of 21, 87 yards and 4 picks.
Holy cow. That Zach Wilson was having games not all that different from that.
Yeah.
And then he played the Titans.
There's that.
So when is do we know when Tyrod Taylor's supposed to be back?
I don't.
I mean, he makes them at least a team that's worth putting on the uniform on Sunday. Like the TV contract will allow for them to be broadcast with him at quarterback.
Yes. Shout out to Davis Mills. It's going really well.
Jeez. I mean, rookie quarterbacks already probably not going to go well.
Yeah.
Although, maybe for Mac Jones it will go okay.
He looked pretty good the other night.
Maybe that was a one-night magical thing with all the stuff around that game, but he actually looks like he's got a pretty good grasp. But for the most part, it's not going to go well.
So I took a screenshot of the Davis Mills. He was 1 of 7 at halftime for 3 yards. He had been sacked 3 times. So as a team, passing the football in the first half, Houston was 1 of 7 for negative 23 yards and 2 picks.
My goodness. That is. I mean, the Bills are good on D.
Yeah.
They're good.
They're not that good.
My gosh. But, hey, they're also not the Lions. Are the Lions the last 0-4? Look at that. I didn't realize that. The Lions stand alone. 0-4.
Jags.
Oh, no.
0-4.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, my bad. We started this thing talking about Urban. And
Urban.
I tried to give Urban a dub. He tried to get a dub apparently last weekend.
He did. Off and running today here on Robby and Rexrode, taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. We'll be back. We'll talk about the Titans and get into this wide receiver room a little bit. Have we overrated this wide receiving core with the Titans? All that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Support Stars on Saturday, October 16th by running, walking, or boogieing the Nashville Striders' 21st annual Shelby Bottoms Boogie 15K and 5K run walk at Shelby Bottoms Park. This event is perfect for the avid runner as well as the casual jogger, or show your support and participate virtually. For more information, visit starsnashville.org. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube today and every day. Our video streaming brought to you by the law offices of Amanda Gentry. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by Volunteer State Bank, conveniently serving Middle Tennessee with 13 locations. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Michelle Knezovic here with you on this Tuesday morning in Nashville, Tennessee, taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. So we've now had over a day to digest the ugliness that we saw with the Titans, and there was a lot of ugly in that game against the Jets. We've talked a lot about the line of scrimmage, offensively and the offensive line in pass protection. It was horrible, and it's going to have to get a lot better. I do wonder, though, and we had a little bit of this conversation yesterday, how much did the receivers play a part in this and their ability to not get open? And, of course, no A.J. Brown, no Julio Jones. You had Nick Westbrook-Akina. You had Josh Reynolds. You had Chester Rogers. And not much else past that. Cam Batson, of course, with a touchdown in the game as well. So my question to you, Joe Rexrode, is if they can't get open against the Jets, who, by the way, were without their best defensive back in this game. So it's not like they were going up against this vaunted secondary out there that the New York Jets possess. If the Titans wide receivers couldn't get open against this group, have maybe we overrated the depth that they have at wide receiver with Chester Rogers and Nick Westbrook-Akina and Cam Batson if they struggled to get open against this team?
I mean, I think that's a fair question to ask. You know, Marcus Johnson is another guy. Josh Reynolds I think Josh Reynolds was the most effective guy.
Yep.
Again, Josh Reynolds was signed. When he was signed, he was wide receiver 2, you know, with the idea that they needed to draft someone else to be a 2-3 with him, and then, you know, the other guys would be, you know, Westbrook-Akina, whoever. But, you know, Marcus Johnson, you know, it still didn't look like a imposing group. I think that the preseason probably made it a little bit, you know, made it seem maybe a little bit better than it was just because those guys were playing well. Again, we haven't seen Marcus Johnson this year, and I think he does move up pretty high in the pecking order if he comes back, which he may come back this week. But it's also, you know, I mean, Vrabel went through everything yesterday, like going around, like all the different things that go into, you know, passing the ball. There were some times, too, it had to have been more that, like, Tannehill couldn't take a step and look.
Yep.
And not just those guys not getting open. Now, I think, you know, sometimes it was them. I mean, I'm going to sound like Vrabel. You know, sometimes it's this, sometimes it's that. You know, we all got to do better. But yeah, you know, I guess I didn't expect, like, those guys to go in there and just completely tear up the Jets. I figured that, you know, that you would be able to make some plays. Tannehill did throw for, what did he throw for, 298?
Yep.
Now, a lot of that's to make nickels. I think the big issue right now is tight end. They're not really getting anything. The best tight end production they're getting in the passing game is from Michael Pruitt. And I think it's Ferkser. Look, we all knew it was a little bit of hype early in camp, but I will say he looked extremely explosive and effective in camp. And then coming off how he has built up his career here, I thought he was absolutely due for a big year. I'm probably, you know, the knee probably is an issue.
Yeah.
I mean, he hasn't been able to play, and he played last week, and it's hard to look at him now and think that there's nothing there, that the physical issue isn't a part of it. But that's something that's got to, like, get better. I mean, other than, you know, A.J. Brown and Julio Jones, obviously, you have them, and that's who you're throwing to, and you could be really good. You don't have them, yeah. You got guys who you'd rather be your 4 and 5 that you're playing as your 1 and 2. But Ferkser has got to become a bigger factor. He could have the winning touchdown to his name right now, and they could be 3-1.
Yeah, he's got to become a bigger factor, and, you know, we'll see whether or not the Titans are going to have AJ and Julio for this game against Jacksonville. Vrabel saying yesterday, sure, there's a chance. There's always a chance. So
he actually did volunteer that Darrington Evans.
Right.
You know, yeah. You ask him specifically about someone, and it's, hey, maybe. Who knows? Injury report will come out. You guys can read it. But he actually volunteered that Darrington Evans, they hope to have him out there, which is interesting.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, I mean, look, Darrington Evans is better than Jeremy McNichols. He's more talented. But, boy, McNichols has been, for the most part, pretty effective, pretty useful in this offense.
Yeah, he has, and we'll see what happens in terms of availability on Sunday. I will still be surprised if both A.J. Brown and Julio Jones are playing on Sunday. just with hamstrings, you never know, and maybe one of them can go. I'd be surprised if both of them are back out there.
I think I'd be surprised if it's both or neither. I just have a feeling it's going to be one.
Going to be one of them.
Which one? I don't know, and I'm just guessing right now. But based on based on the loss,
yeah,
I think maybe from Vrabel's perspective, but maybe even just from certain players' perspectives, they can't lose this one. So I could see like an A.J. Brown trying to fight through it. The question is that the smart thing? Can the Titans still, can the Titans go in and beat the Jaguars with this basic lineup they lost to the Jets with? I think they can, but
I mean, you'd like to hope so,
great.
But after last week, like Zach Wilson doing what he did last week, you're trying to tell me you don't think Trevor Lawrence can do that too? I mean, I think he absolutely could. So
he's got, and frankly, all due respect to Corey Davis, he's got better receivers.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, this idea that you're just going to be able to show up and beat Jacksonville, I think if that's the way you were thinking before, that certainly has changed now. If you're the Titans,
yeah, and that's the thing. I don't think look, they talked things up. I don't think it was one of those things where they were just like, this is going to be fine.
Right.
I mean, they came out and were doing exactly what they should have been doing to the Jets. It's just that they didn't finish it. You didn't execute. You didn't have – I mean, it really comes down to there was some questions for Vrabel about energy and, like, passion and stuff, that's all important. But it really comes down to in this league, in those key moments – actually being precise and focused and making those plays, and they didn't, and then they end up paying for it.
Well, and what you're not going to have to worry about this week as much, although with this offensive line right now, I'm not sure you're comfortable with them blocking anyone, but you're not going up against the front with Jacksonville's defense that the Jets had. I mean, it's not the same.
Yeah.
Now, I'm still by no means am I marking off the offensive line from my list of concerns heading into this week. It's a pretty big concern.
Yeah.
Probably the number one concern with this group.
Right. And, it's the question is kind of like how much better can they get? Like, I can't believe that this is what Nate Davis is going to be. I can't believe that.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. But some of the older guys, is this what they are? How much better are they going to be? Remember, I mean, this is going to be, and I've already heard it be revised so inaccurately. Like, this exact group was outstanding at pass protection last year. They had 25 sacks the entire year. That includes a lot without Lewan. But when they had Lewan, it wasn't just that Derrick Henry gave you play action, where you freeze the deal. I mean, they in obvious passing situations, Ryan Tannehill had clean pockets. All the same guys other than Dennis Kelly. So, can they get back to that? I mean, again, it's a broken record, and I'm sure everybody's sick of it, including the building, but are people going to get healthy or not? I don't know.
Well, right now they're on pace to give up 72 sacks. I mean, that's an absurd number.
Yeah, Tannehill won't be there for all of them if
Yeah.
that's what they keep doing.
We'll continue the conversation on the Titans when we come back. Get to more of your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. We've also got some tickets to give away on the other side as well. All that next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game. That was Titans head coach Mike Vrabel yesterday at his Monday press conference, saying no one, coaches, players, anyone, did well enough in this game against the Jets. You think Derrick Henry's looking around like, well, I did have 157 yards.
Yeah. Are you sure, Mike? You sure? I didn't do well enough? Just a cool little 35 touches, 177 total yards.
I guess I could have had 200.
Yeah.
There's always more plays to be made.
Well, they needed Derrick to take that one run in overtime all the way to save them again, but he didn't. So, boo, Derrick.
We got some tickets to give away to see the Predators take on the Carolina Hurricanes at Bridgestone Arena on Saturday, October the 9th. Be caller number 5, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Caller number 5 will win a pair of tickets to see the Preds and the Hurricanes coming up this Saturday at Bridgestone Arena. Speaking of Derrick Henry, we had a texter point this out yesterday on the text line. He's still playing really well, on pace for 2,000 yards this year. And I guess the question I have is, I don't really question whether or not Derrick Henry is going to be productive throughout the rest of this season, because he's going to be if he remains healthy. My question is, based on the way the offensive line has played thus far, is it going to be enough? Like, is a productive Derrick Henry going to be enough with this group if the offensive line does not get significantly better in pass blocking? And you mentioned it, and it's tough to not look ahead to it. The 4-game stretch that this team has coming up with the Bills, the Chiefs, the Rams, and the Colts. And again, we're not looking past Jacksonville, because I think everybody learned that lesson last week. But it is difficult to move away from when you see that schedule coming up and the teams that are going to be on it. If you can't get these issues offensively figured out in a hurry, which is supposed to be the strength of your team, it's really hard to see how you're going to match up against those 3 teams specifically, in the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Rams, and how well they've either played this year or how well we know that they're capable of playing in Kansas City's case.
Well, I mean, if you want to look at those games, that's another possible problem with losing to the Jets, just like we were talking about. Okay, so, A.J. Brown, do you feel like, oh, man, I can't miss this week now? We just lost to the Jets. So now does someone get put in jeopardy of missing more time because they come back too fast this week because this becomes like this urgent game? I mean, it's because the thing is they are not going to do well in those games if they are missing both of those guys. They will not do well. I mean,
well, they won't. But also, like, can you imagine right now with the way the offensive line has protected, trying to block Aaron Donald when you go to the Rams?
Yeah, that one in particular. Yeah.
On Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, that
would be something.
That wouldn't go. It may not go well regardless of what happens.
Right.
I mean, those guys can get healthy and start playing better, and Aaron Donald could still just wreck the game.
Sure.
Yeah, some of those other teams, that's what's interesting too. Is like, I thought we saw pretty good progress from the offensive line. Really, for late in the Seattle game and then a lot of the Indy game.
Yep.
And then, maybe we're just missing the thing here, and the Jets are just
unblockable.
Yeah, the mean green. New York Sack Exchange. For anybody who remembers Mark Gastineau.
Yes. Let's go to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Steve from Clarksville texting in. We need to add 2 words to the name Titans. Quote, wasn't enough. We made some tackles, but it wasn't enough. Completed some passes, but it wasn't enough. Scored some points, but it wasn't enough. The team showed up, but wasn't enough. Steve proposing a name change for the Titans, adding some names to it.
Okay. Hashtag wasn't enough. Very, very well said, Steve. Yeah, they it's the thing is, like, we were looking ahead to the Jags a little bit last week, even though certainly, we said we were talking all week about how this felt like Cincinnati, right?
Yeah.
But still, you're looking ahead to the Jags just because it looked like a little bit more dangerous game. It's a division game and all that stuff. And, now it's a absolute – this could be a crossroads game, and yet we're already talking about the ridiculous stretch ahead. But it's so ridiculous.
I know.
Because if you go the wrong way Sunday, then it could be like quicksand.
By the way, we were talking about wide receivers last segment. Did you see who had 2 touchdowns on Sunday? The only 2 touchdowns the Detroit Lions scored.
Khalif Raymond?
Khalif Raymond.
Yeah,
2 touchdowns.
Look at that guy, huh? That's great.
Goes elsewhere and I think is legitimately their number 1 receiver.
Which is, first of all, again, great guy. Great for him. It really is a great story. Yeah. Also, he shouldn't be a team's number 1 receiver in the NFL.
They are number 4 or 0-4.
Yeah, that's amazing. Not good for you, Khalif Raymond.
Yeah. Hey.
Look at all these Titans receivers going elsewhere and just lighting it up.
Yeah, it's like Titans kickers, which, hey, that's another thing to keep your eye on this week. Like, as Randy Bullock, does the one miss at the end of it? Now, he hooked it. It was not close, so it was a bad kick. Is that enough if you're the Titans to say, I don't know about this guy?
Well, I assume, and I could be wrong, but even before whatever he did this last weekend, that whenever Ficken is healthy, that he's getting his job back. I could be wrong. I would say that maybe Bullock is so good, and it's like, how are you changing this? Well, that one probably helps to say, yeah, let's go back to plan A, which was whenever Ficken's ready, it's his job again. That'd be my guess. Now, when is Ficken ready? I don't know.
Yeah. Darrynton Evans returning to practice this week, potentially. It'd be great if they could get him on the field at some point. Now, we had somebody ask us this on the text line yesterday, and we couldn't get to it. When Evans is back, is he going to take snaps away from McNichols, given the way McNichols just played this Sunday?
I mean, it's one or the other. Like, I don't even know why both of them would be active on a game day. You can't really do that. You have to have guys at every position in depth. So I believe that when he is healthy and full go, yes. Now, is there enough trust in him and pass protection when he's asked to stay in? I don't know. But
well, they need their backs to pass protect this year for sure.
Yeah, they do. They need everybody, all hands on deck on the pass pro. But yeah, I would guess yes, which again is, I will say, look, McNichols is like Dane Cruikshank. Like, I didn't think he was going to make the team, and now he's a key part of the team. And you got to tip your cap, although he dropped the one pass, which didn't end up costing them because they ended up scoring on the Batson play. But that may have been a touchdown. Actually, am I wrong about that? Or was that the drive before when they ended up – actually, that may have been the drive before.
I think it was the drive before.
So it was the drive before then they get the stop, and then they have the drive. So that was a big misplay, but I mean the guy's been pretty good. He's been productive.
Well, he's been everything you could have hoped that Jerry McNichols was going to be,
right,
and more. So I guess the question is, I think we would both agree, even though we've not had much of a sample size to see it at the NFL level, that Evans has a bigger upside than McNichols does. It's probably not close in that area, but how quickly can he get back there? And then can you stay healthy? Like whenever Evans comes back, if that's this week, next week, whenever, like he's got to stay healthy the rest of the year. Because if you end up having this problem with him again, and he's hurt again at some point this year, if you're John Robinson, I don't know how at that point you can't look back and say, all right, we love the talent this guy brings to the table. Is he ever going to be able to stay healthy so we can see it on the field? Because so far the answer's been no.
John Robinson does like hurt players.
Well, he does.
So keep that in mind. It's early.
You got an all-injury team.
That's the thing. Some of these guys didn't have. They actually have drafted some guys and picked up some guys who don't have massive injury histories. I think Darrynton Evans was one of them. But look at Christian Fulton this year. Even though he looked human finally last week, but I mean he missed a lot of last year, and he's been really good. If they could get their second and third from last year to actually make a difference this year, that would do something. I do believe that Darrynton Evans could do some things in this offense to give it another dimension and to create some explosive plays.
Nate texting in on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Does it really matter how the offensive line is if the two best receivers in AJ and Julio are always out?
Yes.
The box gets stacked, stops Henry, the team is more predictable, and Henry won't be enough by himself to win every game.
Henry just went 33 for 157.
Yeah.
And actually, interesting numbers on that. I thought this as I'm watching. I'm like, this is some of the best defensive back tackling of Derrick Henry I've seen. So he averaged, he had 80 yards after contact Sunday, which is like, oh, that sounds great. But actually, that's a low number for him.
Yeah.
So as Vrabel kind of confirmed this yesterday at his presser, this was actually one of their better, like, run blocking games.
Yeah.
So he actually had better, basically you could say he had better lanes to run in and had less after contact than normal, only about 2.6 yards after contact per carry, which, again, that's low for him, which actually tells you that they had a good day blocking the run. So to answer the question, absolutely. You block people. I mean, these receivers, I think it's a very fair question you brought up. Like, it's kind of like, wow, they have so much depth at receiver, and then it's like, yeah, they're
Didn't go well.
what they are. They're back of the room receivers, but you can have success with Derrick Henry in a line that blocks well in those receivers against a lot of teams. And if you block that poorly, just lose one-on-ones like that and passing downs, no, I mean, I don't care what the receivers are. Like, some of those plays, it could have been Jerry Rice in 1991, and it doesn't matter because Tannehill's on his back.
Speaking of Ryan Tannehill, he's received some criticism so far for the way he's played through 4 games. Is that criticism fair or not? We'll get to that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. That was Titans head coach Mike Vrabel yesterday at his press conference discussing the passing game and the protection issues that the Titans have had in the passing game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, brought to you by Volunteer State Bank. Real people, real solutions right here. Remember, FDIC, equal housing lender. So, Joe, here we sit. 4 games into the season. The Titans are 2-2, and Ryan Tannehill, as we know, has been under siege. We talked about it earlier. The Titans are on pace to give up 72 sacks right now. So obviously he's been running for his life so far through 4 games, and there's been at least one instance in every game where he's just been totally annihilated in the pocket to the point where he gets hit that hard and you think, all right, is Ryan Tannehill going to get up on this play? And of course he has, and we all know the toughness that Ryan Tannehill has. You look at his numbers, 63% completion percentage, 1,054 yards, 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions through 4 games. So the touchdowns through the air really have not been there to this point. I mean, 5 touchdowns in 4 games. If you would have told me that would be the case through 4 games, I'd have been surprised that the touchdown number was that low. Overall, factoring in the protection, everything that we just discussed, the injuries to some top targets, what do we make of the way that Ryan Tannehill has played thus far through 4 games this season?
I think it's one of those things where, like quarterbacks who sometimes are surrounded by a ton of talent, it's like, well, but was he really that great? And then you flip it around too. Like for people who wanted to compare like Peyton Manning to Tom Brady. I mean, I think it's fair to say, well, Tom Brady didn't have Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne and Edgerrin James. I mean, that has to be a factor, right, in evaluating quarterbacks, like what is around it. But ultimately, it ends up going to them. So I personally think that Ryan Tannehill's played really well under the circumstances. I think the circumstances have affected him at times. Is that making an excuse for him? Yeah, maybe. I mean, I agree. Like the pick he threw against Indy was just don't throw that pass.
Yep.
And maybe some of the I think a couple times he's just trying to hang in there and make a play, which I appreciate a quarterback who isn't afraid to stand in the middle of a completely collapsing structure and still try to make a play. But the smart play a couple of those times is, just sail that thing. It's over. And go to the next play. So I think the circumstances have affected him some, but honestly, I think he's played really well. And, I mean, he brings them back at Seattle, and as much as that was a Derrick Henry game, it was also a Tannehill game. And other than that pass against Indy, I thought he was good in that game against a tough D with, again, all of a sudden, both those receivers are on the sideline. And then last week, he throws what should be the winning touchdown pass to Anthony Ferguson. And then if that one pass is caught, I don't think we're asking this question right now.
Yep.
But it's also the reality of the quarterback position. I mean, any little mistake you make is magnified, and the bottom line is the bottom line. Did you win? What are your numbers?
Yeah, and it's always interesting, too, when you have protection issues, that's going to affect your quarterback play. I mean, it's going to affect what you do, whether that's consciously or subconsciously. You know that you've got a clock. And look, to a certain degree, you've got a clock on every play anyway, but the clock is sped up this year for Ryan Tannehill. I don't think there's any question about that through the first few games. So, look, I mean, I think Tannehill's been good so far, especially given the circumstances. You brought up the Seattle game. We talked so much about Derrick Henry in that game, and deservedly so, because Derrick Henry was awesome. Ryan Tannehill was pretty great in that game. So I thought that game on the road, Tannehill was exactly what we've seen Tannehill be the last couple of years. I thought outside of the one pick in the Indy game, which was bad, I thought he was really good in that game and made some big plays both through the air and with his feet as well to win that game for the Titans. So I still think he's largely been very good. The protection issues have got to get better, or he's just not going to have a chance as the season goes on here. But, like you said, the Titans are 2-2, and you've got 2 of your best players, your best weapons that have been unavailable for large portions of this year, I think we're starting to see that Tannehill is not going to be able to do this thing all by himself through the passing game. I mean, he needs some playmakers out there, and I think you brought up a great point earlier that's going to have to get better that we knew could be a problem heading into this season, and that is tight end. Tight end, they've got to be able to give you some things through the passing game. And look, I think Michael Pruitt has done a pretty good job for the most part in the role that he's been in, but Michael Pruitt is not going to be this gigantic difference maker in the passing game. I don't know that Anthony Ferkser is going to be a gigantic difference maker in the passing game. Maybe he is. I think he's certainly better equipped than anybody else they've got at that position on the roster. But I think we're seeing right now, I think it's fair to question, did the Titans prioritize tight end? Because right now, they're just not getting much from the passing end of the tight end position.
Yeah, I mean, it would be good to have a young, talented tight end right now that you drafted on the roster to try to develop and help now and also be there later, because it's another one of those positions that, they're just, I mean, it's going to have to be addressed, obviously, in the next offseason now. But I think a lot of it comes down to Ferkser.
Yep.
It comes down to Ferkser getting healthier, getting faster, getting whatever that he's missing right now, and being a bigger part of the offense. Obviously, they de-emphasize that position, I guess you could say, and they loaded up on the outside.
Which, again, that could be the way to go if everybody could stay healthy. I mean, it could be fine, but
could be.
Gotta have health. I mean, that's part of it.
It could be fine. After a loss to the Jets, nothing is fine. So
that is correct. JD on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Unpopular opinion, I know, but as I tried to convince Stillman yesterday, I think individually Tannehill and Henry had a good game Sunday. Tannehill threw for 300 and a touchdown with third-string receivers in there. Yes, I agree he made some questionable decisions, but overall he did well considering the offensive line is deteriorating right in front of him, and the coordinator cannot change up his scheme to keep him upright. Pair that with the defense not being able to get off the field and looking lethargic and slow. I just don't understand what more people expect until we get those glaring issues fixed. If Tannehill would have thrown for 180 and a pick, I would be way more critical of him on here.
Yeah, like it's Henry. Henry is the best player on the team, and obviously he's just doing amazing things
weekly.
But like right after him, it's Tannehill, or why you'd be optimistic about this team. I don't look at Tannehill and think, man, he's really regressing from last year. I look at him and saying he's in a very different situation. And some people will say, well, whatever, you're the quarterback. But, I mean, come on. Again, I'll put Tannehill on the Lions right now, and he'll suck, okay? I promise you. He won't suck, but, it won't go well. He won't win, and he probably won't have good numbers a lot of weeks. His number one receiver is Cleve Raymond. He has completed some big passes to Cleve Raymond.
He has.
I think he's played well. Again, the bottom line is what what the results are is ultimately how you're judged. But if things do improve around him, I think you're going to see him have a lot of games like he had the last couple of years.
Starting with blocking, got to be able to give him some time.
It does.
If that doesn't improve, I don't know what sort of a chance this team has.
Well, it's going to be a terrible year.
Yeah.
And it's going to go back on. Well, they tried to address the offensive line, and they have not addressed it well.
They have not. 102.5 The Game has your chance to win Preds tickets during the month of October. Just post a picture of your radio dial set to 102.5 The Game on social media, tag the game, and use hashtag TicketDash to be instantly qualified to win. Show us your dash, brought to you by Social Furniture. Shop local, shop social, if I could get those words out. Shop local, shop social. That wasn't that hard.
You got it.
I got it at the end. It's good stuff. When we come back, we'll be joined by Wes Rucker from Go Vols 24/7. We'll get into a big Tennessee win against Missouri over the weekend. What does this mean for this Vols offense as they move forward here? All that more coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, hour number 2 of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, brought to you by Volunteer State Bank. Real people, real solutions right here. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Michelle Knezovic here with you on this Tuesday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. It was a big win for the Tennessee Vols over the weekend against Missouri. And to help us talk more about that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and bring in our good friend Wes Rucker from Go Vols 24/7. Wes, what's going on, brother? How we doing?
Doing all right. How y'all doing this morning?
We're doing great. Appreciate you taking time to join us. So, Wes, I thought Tennessee had a good chance to win this game against Missouri based on just this gut feeling that I had last week. I did not anticipate 62 being hung up by Josh Heupel and this offense. How surprising was that to you, and did that tell you more about this Tennessee offense or maybe that Missouri defense?
Yeah, I was definitely surprised. I mean, I'm someone who picked Missouri to win the game by a couple points, so that ought to tell you how surprised I was. I mean, I said going into the game that I thought, the reason I picked Mizzou was that at the end of the day, if the game was going to come down to, to kind of which quarterback, which passing game would you trust more in a situation like that in a close game, well, I'd pick Mizzou's, right? Well, I mean, it shows what I know. Hendon Hooker looked great in the game. Tennessee runs for 458 yards, so it doesn't really matter. I think it tells you a lot about Mizzou's defense. It tells you a lot about, Mizzou having to fire its defensive line coach a couple of days after the game. So obviously things over there are not great for that bunch right now. With Eli Drinkwitz and Steve Wilkes and that bunch, they're struggling, but I think you got to give Tennessee some credit. I think Tennessee, for nothing else, I think you have to credit Tennessee's defense for the way it played against what I think is a pretty decent Mizzou offense. So yeah, they put the whole thing together there for a day, and it was sort of took your breath away a little bit. It's the kind of performance Tennessee hadn't had in a long time.
So to me, Wes, one, this means this team is going to be bowl eligible. I mean, I know maybe I'm just overreacting right away, but I'll say it. I think they're going to thump South Carolina Saturday, and you got Vandy and South Alabama on the schedule. So I'm already jumping way ahead.
Oh boy,
based on this, I know, but I think honestly, like I think that Ole Miss game could be fun, could be possibly interesting. First of all, how big of a deal do you think that is? For them to, at least get to 6 this year in the bigger picture of the program. And also, by the way, do you think that will matter in the end?
That's a good question there at the end. I'm not really sure about that. But I'll have to wait and see like everyone else will. But in terms of getting to 6, yeah, I mean, that would be huge for this program. That was sort of the marker I set down going into the season was, can they get to 6? If they can get to 6, then in theory, they would get the 15 extra practices. But more than that, they would be able to get the opportunity to really get better as a team and for them to kind of steady the ship as a program. And, but Tennessee, before you can really kind of swim, Tennessee needs to, sort of stay up right now, right? Just stay buoyant, just figure out a way to keep going, and so I think that would be huge for this program. And like you said, I mean, now, nothing's ever going to go the way it did last Saturday where everything goes well at the right time. But now you're talking about a deal where, that Ole Miss game could get kind of crazy, right? And then you look at Kentucky and you say, well, Kentucky's been pretty good this year, but does Kentucky want to get in any game where it becomes a shootout? That's not Kentucky's game, and that's not going to be comfortable for them. So, yeah, a lot of things suddenly feel like they're at least possible, I mean, obviously Bama and Georgia do not, but just about anything else, you go, weird things have happened.
Wes Rucker from Go Vols 24/7 on the line with us, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. So, Wes, I think pretty unquestionably Hendon Hooker is now the guy at quarterback, and Josh Heupel naming him as a starting quarterback yesterday in his press conference. What's impressed you the most about how Hendon Hooker has come in here and taken over the job from Joe Milton?
It's interesting. He's doing a lot of the same stuff he did at Virginia Tech, which is, I still question if they absolutely have to put a game on his right arm late. I don't know that I feel great about that. But everything else about the position, I think he does pretty well. And I think he makes good decisions on when to throw and when to run, which is important in an offense like this. I think he gets the call quickly. I think he's been efficient with the ball. Last week they really reduced their receiver rotation. I mean, they did not target a lot of guys, but the guys they did were the guys they trust, and those guys made plays for him. And I think he's showing a little bit more accuracy on that deep ball, certainly than Joe Milton was showing earlier this season, and more so than I thought he would. I think when you are in a position as a defense where you have to respect the run, Hendon Hooker becomes a really, really good quarterback because that's when the entire playbook is open to him and he can do a lot of damage. When the score and the timing just dictate that he has to throw it, that's where I'm not as comfortable. But in any other situation, I think he's a pretty darn good quarterback.
So is Jeremy Banks a good linebacker now?
I'll tell you, there's times where you watch Jeremy Banks and you remember why, and you think about all the linebackers that Jeremy Pruitt has coached over the years and all the good ones. And when he said that guy could be as good as any linebacker I've ever coached, there are times where you watch him and you go, oh, that makes sense that he said that. But then there's just that thing in the back of your mind of, when's the 15-yard penalty coming? When's the 15-yard penalty coming? And when he doesn't do that, he's a pretty solid player. He just has to avoid that sort of boneheaded mistake that he makes from time to time, which is difficult when you play the game the way he plays it, kind of on the edge all the time. You're going to fall over from time to time. But, man, when he doesn't, he's a pretty solid player.
So, Wes, Tyon Evans on Saturday, obviously a phenomenal game, 3 touchdowns, 150 yards on the ground. He could have ran for probably 300 in that game if they really wanted to. I guess what impresses you the most about what they have at the running back position? And, obviously 458 yards is not going to happen every week, but how confident are you now based on what we've seen thus far this season in this Tennessee running game and their ability to continue to be productive in SEC play?
Tyon Evans, I was telling somebody the other day that it feels nice. The past few years, there have been times where we've watched preseason camp and said, this guy could be a pretty good player or that guy could be a pretty good player. A lot of times it hasn't worked out that way. Tyon Evans is a case where it's like, okay, we called that one right, so good for us, right? We didn't get everybody's hopes up for no reason. The way he gets up to top speed as quickly as he does, because he's pretty fast. He's not a pure burner, but he's pretty darn fast. I mean, you go 92 yards in the SEC, you're pretty fast, right? But the way that he's able to get his acceleration, and I'll tell you, his power is really, really impressive. So, sorry, guys. There's Gus wishing everybody a good morning.
Good morning, Gus.
What's up, Gus?
Yeah. Thanks, Gus. But, yeah, the way that he gets up to top speed as quickly as he does, the way that he, kind of really shows that power to everyone, that he's really, really big in the lower half. He's a big, big guy. He doesn't look it, but you see him walking around in shorts, you're like, are you wearing football pads all the time? I mean, that's how big the guy's lower half is. And at the point of impact, he is a really, really strong guy. So he's a guy who, I think Jabari Small, if they can get him healthy or keep him healthy enough, they really, really like him too. But Evans is a guy to me that ever since he stepped on campus, I've been like, look out for that guy.
So, Wes, I have been hearing some concern, I'd say, about Josh Heupel's recruiting for this class. How would you characterize it at this point? And does just one Saturday like that give it any kind of bump?
It could give it a little bump, especially for some offensive players. I think. Listen, I don't think that in the situation Tennessee's in right now, with as much as easy as it is to negatively recruit against Tennessee until they hear back from the NCAA something official, that's just going to be an issue, right? I think in the long run, Heupel's offense will sort of recruit itself. That doesn't mean that this staff can be lazy, but that means that certainly that they're going to have a chance with some kids because of the nature of the way they play the game. You look at Heupel press conferences and you go, well, the guy's just not smashing that one out of the park. But that's just not his personality. But the way that it sells itself is with the product on the field. That's what does the recruiting for them right now, or what should. And they're going to have to identify some guys at first. I mean, that's going to be the key for a couple of years probably is they're not going to be recruiting the way that Alabama and Georgia are. And to be candid, I don't think they're going to recruit the way that Tennessee did for most of the time Jeremy Pruitt was there. Not at first, just because that's a bit of a challenge right now for many reasons. But they're going to have to take guys. They're going to have to be really, really smart in their evaluations. They're going to have to get those right. And they're going to have to plug guys into this system that can go out there and improve and get the performance they want. Because the way they play the game, you can get a slightly different player than a lot of the other guys are focusing on because of the things they value on offense. So they can work around that. It's just a matter of can they be that efficient? Because if they can be efficient on the trail the first couple of years, that should help them for down the road when they can get maybe the bigger guys again.
Wes Rucker from GoVols 24/7 has been our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. Wes, great stuff, man. Appreciate you taking time to join us.
No problem. Anytime, guys.
Absolutely. Wes Rucker from GoVols 24/7. We'll come back. We'll react to what Wes had to say there. Take your thoughts on the Vols as well on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025, including one aspect of this Vols team that I think is night and day different from a year ago. We'll get to that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Join us in partnering with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's Light the Night. Light the Night brings light to the darkness of cancer through hope, research, and support for patients and their families. Through this inspirational nationwide movement, we raise awareness and funding for groundbreaking research and treatment options to eliminate cancer. Nashville's Light the Night will be virtual and take place on November the 4th. You can learn more at lightthenight.org/TN. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Our video streaming brought to you by the law offices of Amanda Gentry. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by Volunteer State Bank, conveniently serving Middle Tennessee with 13 locations. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Thanks to Wes Rucker from Go Vols 24/7 for joining us in the last segment. And Joe, I'm watching this Tennessee game unfold on Saturday, and obviously the offense gets a lot of the headline. You run for 458 yards, you put up 62 points. That's going to be the story, and certainly they played well. I thought the defense played really well as well, as we talked about yesterday. But there's one part of this Vols team that I think has made a huge difference so far that is, to me, night and day different from Jeremy Pruitt's staff to this Josh Heupel staff. And there are a lot of things that are different that you can point to. Obviously, the offense and the way they just operate is a complete 180 than what they did under Jeremy Pruitt, and that's obvious. But the pushback in this team and the compete level, the fight in this team, to me is totally different than it was a year ago. I mean, this defense, and I thought you made an excellent point on this yesterday, this Tennessee defense is not really all that talented. They've got some guys. I mean, Tyler Barron's a good player. Byron Young's a good player. Alontae Taylor's an experienced guy in the secondary. They've got some good players. Theo Jackson's been unbelievable so far this year. But by and large, this is not really all that talented of a defense. And yet, they just go out there and they compete their butt off and they play. And I think we saw that on Saturday. This team last year, it felt like after the Georgia game and the way it went down in the second half, they totally folded up and were done. And they did not recover after the Georgia game. It's like they had zero response when something bad happened to them. And I just don't feel that way. I mean, you lose 38-14. You played well against Florida in the first half, and then you come out and you just don't have enough in the second half. You don't make plays that are available to you. And to me, if that happened to this group last year, I mean, they'd just be roasted from then on. And they came out, and I get it. Missouri, they're not good. But this team just totally kicked Missouri's butt on Saturday. I think the compete level and how Josh Heupel has been able to get this team very early into his tenure to not just fold up when bad things happen, I think that speaks very well of him, and that's totally different about this group from a year ago.
I agree. But I also remember Jeremy Pruitt taking that team that was dead after that loss to Florida, after the loss to Georgia State, after blowing the game to BYU and going on a run and fighting and competing, and similar things were said then. So it's like it's just caution for me on.
Right, I'm not ready to anoint Josh Heupel yet.
Yeah. No, I know you're not. I agree though that last year, like the Georgia game, it's amazing to think that they're in Athens and it's like, wow, they actually might win at Georgia, and then oh no, they didn't come close to it, and it kind of sent them spiraling. I suppose you could look at last year, like even I think back to like after all the losing and stuff, they go into Auburn and actually should have won that game, and then you have a bad Big Six. I mean, quarterback play / offensive design, play calling, all that stuff betrayed. So I don't think they just totally packed up in the season. They still beat Vanderbilt by 25. There's still guys on that team, which I know is that's no achievement, especially last year. But I'm just saying, there are guys that kept playing and fighting and had pride and all that stuff. But I would agree that right now it does look better. I think that there's always some kind of unless the coach is terrible, there's always some kind of a first-year coach bump that I think a team gets. Especially, you've got some people who, when a new coach comes in, who are just out of there, and a whole bunch of guys are in that category. But the people who stay, the veterans, look, I mean, I remember talking to Jacob Warren. I know it's just like media day talking stuff, but, I mean, that guy in particular, and some of the other guys, like on media day, were like, yeah, basically, to paraphrase, like, we like these coaches way better. mean, Jeremy Pruitt didn't treat people well in a lot of cases. There's no doubt about that, and that was broadcast before he ever coached a game for Tennessee, right? So I mean, I think like there's something to like treating people well, which seems to be something that Josh Heupel does better than Jeremy Pruitt. And I feel like Tim Banks deserves some credit too. It seems like he's really done a good job of getting the most out of what he has. He has a bottom third of the SEC defense in terms of talent. Is that fair to say?
I would say so.
Right,
Yeah.
right. It's certainly better than a few teams, but it's way behind a lot of the. And look, we're gonna see this in some. We saw it a little bit eventually at Florida. We're gonna see it in a couple Saturdays here coming up. But I think that he's really got them playing fast and playing with great energy and effort. And that was kind of the underrated part of Saturday for me, was that I just really like how they competed. And that's actually a good thing they face. Like that's a good offense, good quarterback.
Yep.
You know, Missouri's defense is trash, okay?
Awful.
But Tennessee's defense did a pretty darn good job against a legit O.
The Kentucky fans are out on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Dwight texting in. I remember a day when Tennessee was talking about national titles, not a win over Missouri being big. I think UT fans kind of know how UK fans have felt for a bunch of years with those kinds of expectations.
Well,
Yep.
you're bringing all these Kentucky fans over to the text line, Michelle.
Listen, they're a great team to love. Look at the program, though. I mean, like, you want to support them, right? See another team, like, do good in the SEC.
Tennessee fans don't.
No.
Robbie's looking at me
No,
just
I
like,
don't.
Michelle, stop it. Nope.
I mean, in all seriousness, Kentucky, if Kentucky's coming into your state and taking top kids that you want,
Yeah.
that's
Kentucky's on the rise. Tennessee's on the fall.
wow.
I don't know if Tennessee's on the fall.
Yeah,
like
they're
they kind of hit the floor.
They're plateau.
Yeah, they've been planking for a while, man.
Marty, Kentucky fan, texting in. Robbie and Joe, you laughed at Michelle and I when we predicted our game win. Are you still laughing? This coming from Marty. Did we laugh at y'all?
Well, you.
I mean, I
put
kinda
You're
saw.
locked.
You put lock on.
I
Florida.
did lock Florida.
I don't know that I laughed. I might have laughed. It's possible. I thought they had a shot because Kentucky. Like, I think Kentucky has a shot. They don't have a shot against Georgia,
No.
but they're. I mean, Stoops has done an incredible job. Incredible job. No question. Now, the difference between Kentucky and Tennessee, and maybe it's changing, maybe all these years of being competitive are going to change it, but, like, there's still a way higher ceiling for Tennessee. Yeah, there just is. I mean, the resources, the fan base, all of it, the facilities, there's a big difference between the two. That's why if you're a Tennessee fan, you're just like, how are you here and they're there? But that's what a great coach will do.
Well, it's also what stability does.
Yes.
And Mark Stoops has been there for a long time. And, regardless of how you feel about Josh Heupel, and look, I'll say I feel a little bit better about Josh Heupel than I did than when he was hired. But this is I think an important process if you're Tennessee to have some stability and get this thing back to where it's stable again. This has not been a stable job for a long time. And Butch Jones had a modicum of stability there for a while, and then that changed in a hurry for Butch Jones. But other than that, there's really not been a stable head coach since Philip Fulmer was the coach. And, I'm not saying that you just hold on to coaches for the sake of holding on to it, because I think that's a very bad way to operate. But how long has Mark Stoops been there now? He's doing a pretty good job building that program.
Yeah, and that's where it also. I mean, it helps to take something over that's just not good and
terrible.
hasn't been good, right? I mean, because now you're going to have time. I mean, it's kind of like. I think Clark Lee at Vanderbilt. I don't care what happens the rest of the year. No one, or next year. Honestly, he's going to get the time because everybody knows what he has inherited, and then at some point, we'll see. Derek Mason got a ton of years there, even after the guy before him won a lot. And he had, 2 6-win seasons. So it's the thing with Tennessee is I wonder now the way people view Tennessee and the way things have changed for Tennessee. Would Butch Jones absolutely be on the outs in 2021, 2022 with the same situation as he was in 2017?
Probably not.
Right? Now, that may not be good because, to your point, well, you don't just have stability for the sake of stability.
It's not going well for him so far, by the way, at Arkansas State.
No. That first year.
It
First
is.
year
It
coach.
is. It is. They are getting crushed on a weekly basis.
Hey, the bricks are just on it's that first
Foundational bricks have been laid. Ricky on the text line. There are Kentucky football fans now. Never knew this. They're all basketball fans rooting for the football team because they're good.
If you're a Kentucky fan, aren't you a Kentucky fan, period?
Yes.
Aren't you a Kentucky fan of volleyball and soccer and
Hey,
golf?
our volleyball team just won the national championship.
There you go.
I mean, right? So I don't think. Now, the problem is when you get to the Kentucky basketball, who's also the Alabama football fan.
And we've met some on our text line.
Okay,
yeah.
that's just wild.
Oh, yeah. It happens.
I mean, I know people who are Michigan football and Michigan State basketball fans. Like, no, you can't do
doesn't
that.
make
No, that doesn't work. Nope.
You can't do that.
Rainey texting in. Don't get cocky, Michelle. You're still Kentucky.
Ooh.
There's a nice Tennessee fan
I like
response
it.
there. I
I
like
like
that
it.
one.
I don't get
Saucy.
when people are like, it's Kentucky. Like, am I supposed to be insulted? Because I embrace that. I love Kentucky. Okay, it's Kentucky. We're doing great right now.
That was a very nice smackdown of you on the text line, sir.
It was. We'll continue the conversation on the Vols when we come back, including what have we liked, what have we not liked about Josh Heupel and this staff so far through 5 games. We'll get to that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Tune in to the NFL Game of the Week on 102.5 The Game, brought to you by Red Spirits and Wine in Bellevue. This Game of the Week this Sunday is Cleveland Browns taking on the LA Chargers. Kickoff is set for 3:05. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Talking Vols, taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. I got a text that says, Tennessee fans shouldn't be mad after all. Tennessee is just a basketball school. LOL.
Oh.
Wow.
Oh.
Lots of shade on the text line right now.
Now you know how we feel when people call us just a basketball school.
A lot of shade on. I think that was more of a shot at the football program.
Yes. But Tennessee, first of all, Tennessee's. Yikes, sorry. Women's basketball for Tennessee, one of the top two programs in the history of that sport. Although I guess at some point
they're gonna have to get back to.
At some point, it could be like UConn and everybody else. But I mean, right now it's Tennessee, UConn, and everybody else. I don't know when someone else will rise up to be the two in that.
Stanford.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at Stanford compared to what UT did
now,
but it's been a long time. I mean, it's been a long time. But men's basketball, very good. Also,
can't wait for the tournament this year. It's gonna be great.
That's when you'll pay attention.
Well, no, I'll pay attention before then. I'm just.
You're already
the track record for Rick Barnes does not get me excited for the tournament.
Yeah,
I can't wait for the tournament.
That's fair.
There you two are again, sneaking college basketball talk in.
I got to see college basketball yesterday. It was great.
That's right. You saw what, Vandy and
I've
TSU
opened the door.
Pro Day?
I did. It was great to just sit there and watch some basketball.
That's right.
So quickly, since we're talking hoops
Oh,
now,
boy. What have we done here?
The freshman for Vanderbilt, real quick scouting report.
He looked really good. I would say he was the best in their 2:30 shooting drill. Nice three-pointer. Lefty.
Oh, a little lefty action.
Little lefty action.
And this is, for the record, I'm now losing the name.
Gabe, right?
Yeah.
Gabe
Gabe Dorsey. Yeah.
Yep, Gabe Dorsey.
Yeah. All right, so there you
Looked
go.
good. Looked
Gabe
good
Dorsey
out there.
looked good. There you go.
Thank you.
There's some basketball for you, Robby.
We appreciate
You're welcome,
that.
Rob.
Thank you. So, Joe, what have we liked? What have we not liked about Josh Heupel thus far? What has impressed you the most about Heupel through 5 games as Tennessee's head coach?
Oh, easily the offense and the design, the plays, the fact that he gets people open, and just that the tempo is like legit tempo, And this is a lot of people run, quote unquote, this offense, and then they get to line. And granted, there's still a reason to do it. You make it tough on the defensive sub. They try to sub. You take the snap, or you put the defense in a bind. But a lot of them, they go no huddle. Then they stand there. Then the quarterback looks to the sideline, and then with 4 seconds on the on the play clock, they snap the ball. When this team wants to go fast, it's like what I've seen before with Baylor and some of the other ones who were sort of at the even Mike Leach's like Texas Tech team and stuff, it's legit fast. But I just think Josh Heupel has a great feel for just this offense and play calling and all that stuff. So that's by far what I've been most impressed with.
Yep, the play calling's been really good, and even in times and situations where the execution's not been there, pretty much for the most part this year, he's done a really good job calling plays. So I've been impressed by that. What have we not liked about Josh Heupel? Because the way I'm going with that, I've liked a lot of what I've seen on the field. I just talked about, defensively. We just know there's not much depth. There's not really all that much talent defensively. I think they've played well in spurts. Now, they're going to give up some points this year. I mean, Tim Banks has done a good job. I mean, they're about to run into a part of their schedule. When you're playing the Georgias and the Alabamas and the Ole Misses of the world, this defense is going to give up some points, and I don't think there's any way around that. So you know that going into it, but I like a lot of what I've seen from Tim Banks. Really, the one part that is concerning to me about Heupel that has been a concern ever since he was hired, and I don't know if you can even fairly judge it right now, is the recruiting. Is recruiting going to get better? It's not gone all that well for Josh Heupel and the Vols thus far. I think we knew that was probably going to be the case based on everything that surrounded this Tennessee program. Look, it's very easy to negatively recruit Tennessee. Not only with just the NCAA stuff going on, but just look at Tennessee the last 10 to 12 years. It's not been the same program that most people are accustomed to seeing. And quite frankly, the kids that you're recruiting nowadays, they have no concept of what it means for Tennessee football to be the Tennessee football that Vols fans love. So, and the recruiting going not that well so far doesn't really surprise me. I guess my question is, based on what he shows the rest of this year, particularly on offense, how much can you change that if you're Josh Heupel? Because at some point, that's going to have to change if you're going to be competitive. If you're going to continue to sustain, whatever offense you want to throw out there. I think there's a certain level of Josh Heupel and his track record says they're always going to have a certain level of production on offense based on, the way his career has gone so far. Recruiting is the next step for him, and I don't know that we can fairly judge Josh Heupel and his recruiting as of yet.
We can't, but I am concerned about it, and that's exactly what my answer is too. I mean, there's really nothing on the field that's like surprisingly bad. I think, I haven't liked a couple of the time clock management situations from him.
Their special teams are unbelievable. Like their special teams have been really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, like the D's been, to me, has overachieved. It'll have some tough days, but I am concerned about the recruiting. I have no doubt that there's negative recruiting around the NCAA situation, but like we did the recruiting confidential thing with coaches in the state, David Ubben and I did, and there was a lot with those coaches. And again, they were anonymous and they teed off on a number of things. They were kind of like, it hasn't really been a big thing. I mean, look, especially with the way things are, the way the NCAA has been weakened and the way I think a lot of things are being deregulated. I think most people think this is going to be maybe it'll be a postseason ban, some scholarships, some recruiting restrictions where coaches, but I don't think there's this big like realistic, reasonable expectation that they're just going to get hammered over this thing. So I understand, there's some negative recruiting, but I don't think that that's some overwhelming factor. I mean, Wes Rucker is talking earlier on the show like, in a couple of years when they can get the big guys. Well, I've never heard that about Tennessee before. I've never heard anyone say, look, Pruitt came in, get the big guys right now.
But doesn't that tell you more about where the program is right now? Not with the NCAA stuff, but just where the football program itself is right now.
It does. Yeah, I'm not saying that's a reflection on Heupel, but I'm concerned about if that's true, okay, then where's your roster in a couple of years? And then there is legit, I think, concern about him as a great recruiter. Yep. There hasn't been a ton of evidence that he is one. Now, I think he seems like someone who's good to play for, and guys like playing for him and being in the building, all that stuff. But is he good enough at convincing guys that they should come play for him?
Well, and it's also your staff too, right? Like if you're not a great recruiter, and to your point, there's not much evidence that suggests that Heupel is like this recruiting master out there. If you're not a great recruiter, you need people on your staff to be a great recruiter. And I don't know, we're going to find out about this staff and how equipped they are to do that. But that's the name of the game in college football. You got to be able to recruit.
Right. So I agree with what Wes said about I just can't imagine that they're not going to bring guys to play in this offense. In that stadium, with those facilities, in this league, I can't believe it. I can't believe that they can't get some top guys on that side of the ball. What can they do on the defensive side of the ball? Can they get to, become more of a legit SEC-level defense in future classes? Because I still think it's on the table that you're talking about a lot of like 7-5 type teams that get into a lot of shootouts at this point.
Let's go back to our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Andrew from Dover texting in. As an Alabama football fan and Kentucky basketball fan, I can say I did cheer on Kentucky versus Florida, but the worst thing Kentucky fans could have said afterwards was we want Alabama. Trust me, you do not want us in football.
No, we don't.
Are you talking to yourself when you say that?
I don't know.
You do not want us in football.
The angel on the right shoulder, the devil on the left shoulder.
Amazing. Should be like it's like a Cowboys/Lakers fan or something.
Yeah, there's a lot of those.
Or like any team that's winning fan.
Pretty well, right. Or popular or winning/winning. Yeah.
Every year it switches.
It's fun stuff. When we come back, it's been an interesting week for Urban Meyer as head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. He had a press conference yesterday regarding the viral video that went out over the weekend with Urban Meyer in a bar. We'll get to some of that coming up next. Take your thoughts as well on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game. Do you want to win a pair of tickets to see Daughtry at the Ryman Auditorium on November the 3rd? Well, if you do, head on over to YouTube and subscribe to the 1025 The Game YouTube page, and you'll enter for your chance to see Daughtry. Once you subscribe, email us at promotions@cromwellmedia.com. Once again, that's promotions@cromwellmedia.com with your YouTube handle. One winner will be chosen on Monday, October the 11th. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game. Going to be joined by Gentry Estes from the Tennessean to begin the 8 o'clock hour. We'll get hot and heavy into the Tennessee Titans with him. Joe, it's been an interesting weekend for Urban Meyer. Obviously, the viral video coming out of Urban Meyer in a bar somewhere, I guess in Columbus, Ohio. He had his Ohio State garb on in the videos and pictures that were taken, and he was with some young woman that was not his wife, and it was an interesting set of videos that have come out, to say the least.
Well, you show me the other one.
Yeah, it's Interesting stuff from Urban Meyer. And naturally, Urban Meyer returned to work yesterday down in Jacksonville. And given what went on this weekend, it was a very interesting press conference from Urban Meyer. Here's some of what Urban Meyer had to say yesterday at his Monday press conference down in Jacksonville.
Yeah, I just apologize to the team and staff and for being a distraction, just stupid. And so I explained everything that happened and owned it, and just stupid. Should not have myself in that kind of position.
Urban, did you fly back with the team, or did you stay in?
No, I stayed to see the grandkids, and we all went to dinner that night at the restaurant, and then there's a big group next to our restaurant, and they wanted me to come over and take pictures, and I did. And they were trying to pull me out on the dance floor, screwing around, and I should have left.
How did the team react? I mean, they're probably pretty reactionary. Or, how did they take it, your apology?
Well, I've always been so defensive of them. I remember when Trevor told me he was going to go to Vegas for his bachelor party. I mean, I was just, my gosh, man, be careful and surround yourself, and because I've seen this happen, and I just, so the team. I spoke to a bunch of leaders one-on-one, spoke to all the players. They're good. They were focused on Tennessee, and I apologized again for being a distraction. And a coach should not be a distraction.
How about your family? Did you feel a need to apologize to your family?
Yeah, of course I did. Yeah, that's not me, and that's, oh yeah, they were upset.
So that was Urban Meyer yesterday at his press conference. Obviously, that's going to be the story all week for Jacksonville and Urban Meyer and what went down over the weekend in the bar. I mean, I've got a couple of takeaways from that. Number one, we talked about this a little bit earlier. How are the players going to respond to what is going to be a distraction? I mean, whenever Trevor Lawrence speaks to the media, he's going to be asked about this. This is going to be a talking point all week, and obviously this has been everywhere on social media. So how do you respond to this if you're a player? But number two, does Urban Meyer think that we're stupid and we can't see what happened in this video? Because, he tried to make it sound like there that, they just called me over to take some pictures and tried to get me out on the dance floor, and I should have left. They're just screwing around. Is a little bit more than that was going on in the videos that have come out, Urban.
Trying to force my hand to go places it shouldn't go.
Yeah.
Ever. Yeah, like that.
Does he think the videos don't exist, or?
Man,
I'm very confused by that response.
I mean, I can't even. Whew. I really, honestly, I said it earlier on the show. Everybody's wanting Urban to fail, and it's all been goofy. He's doing some dumb college stuff and bad hires. But I'm like, he might turn. But this actually makes me think he might be just an idiot. I don't know.
The worst part is the family, you find out on social media.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean.
Well, that's it. And that's the thing I don't really get, right? So you've got the videos that we see and the pictures that have been taken. And then Urban Meyer's talking about how he's out, he's taking the grandkids to dinner. And then I guess he just rolled on over after that was over.
They wanted me to come take some pictures and have 9 beers and, and grope a young woman. They're making me do this stuff. I don't know.
Not good stuff. Dude, this has been a total disaster for Urban Meyer to begin.
Seriously, that. The other video you showed me, which I can't believe it's not like every other tweet right now. Maybe it's because Twitter went down yesterday along with Instagram and Facebook. Boy, that's a tough one, man. It's I don't even know. So I'm trying to think. One, what is the exact correct question to ask Mike Vrabel to get him to address this?
I don't know.
I think Jim Wyatt should go ahead and
just start thinking of that one.
And the presser with that. Jim tried to get the Brady Belichick.
Oh, we saw
Friday. Yeah,
it doesn't affect me.
Vrabel was all in on that.
Yeah, he was.
So Vrabel knows Columbus well. There's got to be some way. He worked for Urban. I'm sure he'd love to weigh in on this whole situation.
Yeah, sure. He's really looking forward to that.
Do you think Coach is focused about the game? You could say that. How do you think Coach is prepping for the game with all this going on?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, wow.
I'll say this: if I was Urban Meyer,
even more interesting week.
If I was Urban Meyer, I'd be watching more film this week than I've ever watched in my entire life. Number one, to just do something else. But number two, you better come out and have a good game plan if you want some of this to go away.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
There's no better way to deal with this than beating the Titans, I guess. Lindsey Jones wrote a column on this at The Athletic, and I guess I hadn't thought of it this way, but it may. Like, I hadn't thought it was that big of a deal to not fly back, but she was like it's absolute. Like, coaches in this league on Thursday night game, they are breaking down the film on Friday.
Yeah,
it kind of makes sense. I mean, I guess in my mind it's like, well, you can still have like your normal game week, but the norm is that you would knock out the review stuff early, and then you have a day or two off, which is fine. Then you have your normal week with a little bit of a head start because you don't have to do the review stuff, or at least like your side of it. Well, so he was like, nah, I'm going to the bar, man.
Well,
see you
especially
guys.
when you're 0-4, like you should probably be doing everything you could do to, maybe try to win a few here or there.
Yeah. Well, I guess the question is, does this have any sort of, well, as the Titans are concerned, does this have any sort of negative effect on the team this week, which is already a bad team?
I mean, maybe. I mean, look, it can't be good. Like, this is not a good thing for the team. Is it going to affect what they do on the field? I don't know. Probably not, would be my guess. But, I mean, it's just one more thing where, and Orlovsky brought this up yesterday on ESPN, like if you're a player in that locker room and Urban Meyer and the staff are talking to you about accountability and not putting yourself in bad situations, and there is still a pandemic going on, and trying to be as smart as you can about that stuff. Like, if you're a player, how do you kind of listen to anything Urban Meyer has to say right now? It'd be tough.
Yeah.
I mean, Orlovsky went as far as to say, I would not want that guy to be my head coach any longer. Now, are players in the locker room going to feel that way? I don't know about that, but
if they think he's a crappy coach, yes.
Right.
If they think he's a good coach, then they don't care about this.
Right.
If they think he's a crappy coach, then this is a good reason to – one more good reason to not listen to him.
I just wonder what's going through Shad Khan's mind right now when he sees all this stuff. They're 0-4, and his coach is out making news in ways you don't want to see your coach making news.
So what was recently? Someone was like, "Yeah, he's gonna be out this year." Oh, it was the USC stuff, which was never there was never anything. I mean, I get the speculation, but there was never anything to that.
Maybe he puts himself in the hat now. Who knows?
Like this one, now I think anything's on the table.
Yeah.
Like, because here's what could happen next is additional reporting around this situation, which sometimes unearths interesting things. We'll see. But I mean, I would bet that this is not the last we hear about that night.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Heck of a start for Urban Meyer with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Joe, very quickly, because we didn't talk about this yesterday, another big story in the NFL right now that made Broncos head coach Vic Fangio very upset. The Ravens are up 23-7 in the fourth quarter on Sunday. All you need to do is take a knee, and the game's going to be over, and you go back to your locker room, and that's that. Well, instead of doing that, Lamar Jackson runs out to the left. There's this wall of blockers in front of him. He gets a 4-yard gain and then slides, takes the knee to preserve the consecutive games with a 100-yard rush streak for Baltimore. And they're, at some absurd number. I don't even remember what the number is, but John Harbaugh coming out after the game saying, getting to 100 yards is very important for his team, very important to that locker room, and that's why they did it. Vic Fangio, not a fan of the Ravens doing that. There's been a lot of reaction to that on ESPN, on social media the last couple of days. What are your thoughts on Lamar Jackson and the Ravens getting 4 yards and then taking it to the house instead of just taking the knee?
I mean,
One mute.
Damn it. I mean, Vic Fangio's making this like a player safety thing. I liked Harbaugh's response. Well, then when it's a 23-7 game and there's absolutely no chance that you could win, why are you Why are you running football plays and throwing the end zone? People could get hurt on that. Game's over.
Yeah.
Hey, man, tackle somebody or shut up. I think Vic Fangio looks like an idiot here. Hey, it matters to the Ravens. I mean, I understand some people like this. This is sort of like an artificial continuation of the streak, right?
Right.
Because it's just a kneel down. So I get that. I mean, it's kind of like your guy Brett Favre just falling down so Michael Strahan can get the sack record, which was not cool. But ultimately, it matters to them. They got it. If you don't like it, tackle somebody.
I don't have a huge problem with it. I will say it looks pretty stupid if you're John Harbaugh, if you run Lamar Jackson out to the left and he takes a shot to the head and then he's out for 2 weeks. Like, how important is your rushing record then? Now, there were 5 guys in front of Lamar Jackson, and he smartly got down when he got the required yardage. So there wasn't a huge risk on that play, but if you do that and somebody gets hurt, then you look pretty stupid as a head coach. That's the only issue I have with it.
That's a good point. Maybe give it to one of your your number 5 running back, whoever you're down to at this point, and let Lamar block for him. I don't know.
Maybe so, or just roll out and get out of the way. One of the two. When we come back, we'll be joined by Gentry Estes from the Tennessean. We'll get into the Titans, the loss against the Jets, and how they respond from here with him. That's next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, hour number 3 of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, brought to you by Volunteer State Bank. Real people, real solutions right here. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Michelle Knezovic here with you on this Tuesday morning in Nashville, Tennessee, talking Titans. And to help us do that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our good friend Gentry Estes from the Tennessee. And Gentry, what's going on, brother? How we doing?
Hey, I'm good. Good morning. Good to be with you guys.
Good to have you with us. And Gentry, you were there for that debacle of a game for the Titans against the Jets on Sunday in New York. I guess your initial reaction to what we saw on Sunday and your concern level at this point with the offensive line. Is this what we're going to see from a pass blocking standpoint with the offensive line? How much confidence do you have that the Titans can figure this out and get better in that area?
Yeah, I mean, that's really the question. I think when you look at what happened in the game, I mean, obviously just a game that the Titans should have won and didn't. And, you know, even with all the issues, pass protecting, missed opportunities in the red zone, they still had the game in a good place late. They ran a lot more plays than the Jets. They had a lot more possession time than the Jets. That's the script they like to have, to let Derrick Henry kind of take over a game in the fourth quarter. We've seen it before, and they were in position to do it. But it's just it got to the defense didn't hold up late. But yeah, it goes back to the inability to protect Tannehill. And as much as you want to look at this game and say, well, it's because they didn't have A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, Bud Dupree, all these big guys, that's not the big reason why you give up 7 sacks to the Jets after giving up 6 of them to the Cardinals. So I think pretty much every defense in the NFL is going to look at this and realize, hey, the games the Titans lost, they gave up 13 sacks. They were unable to protect their quarterback on third down. So it's a big problem, and it's a problem that they just honestly didn't have last year. It's a new problem, and one they're going to have to figure out quickly.
Yeah, no, I agree. In fact, I think I'm going to have to go back and look at some analytics from last year. I would argue that the Titans, in terms of pass protection last year before Lewan went down, granted, Derrick Henry helps with this, right? I mean, the play-action game is nice, but even in obvious drop-back situations where he's no factor, say where they were one of the best in the league in protecting Tannehill from about late 2019 when they figured it out through last year. Even without Lewan last year, it wasn't a big problem. So Gentry, is it as simple to you as this guy hurt, this guy not playing well, or do you think there is some kind of larger thing here, maybe OC or whatever, in terms of their protection right now?
I do think, obviously, the protection, it's just been different things, right? Because, I mean, it was Lewan in the first game. I don't think you can say it was him so much against the Jets. But, you know, look, if you guys remember before the season, everyone was saying, well, you got A.J. Brown and Julio Jones and Derrick Henry. What's the defensive coordinator going to do? You know, and these guys are paid a lot of money to sit there and not throw up their hands and figure out what to do. And I think the answer is going to be to challenge the Titans in this way and go after Tannehill, especially on third down. Put a team in man, put your coverage in man, and just go after Tannehill and say, we're going to get you. And the fact that the Cardinals had success in week 1 doing that, I think it told everybody that they were going to be vulnerable that way. To go to Seattle the next week, if you saw the comments from Pete Carroll after the game, I mean, they had a strip sack of Tannehill in that game, and they came away from that saying that they didn't get as much pressure as they thought they were going to get in that game. And that was when they thought Taylor Lewan was going to be on the field. So I think it's the NFL. It's like you go into the season thinking the offense is going to be unstoppable, and there's a lot of people who try to come up with ways to not make that the case.
Gentry Estes from the Tennessee on the line with us, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. So, Gentry, what about the other side of the ball? Obviously, you know, the end of the Seattle game, the Colts game, and really the first half for the most part of the Jets game, we saw some good things defensively, and then that fell apart towards the end. Your confidence level, specifically in the secondary with this defense, with Christian Fulton having to go inside in the last game, just what have you made of the secondary through the first 4 games for the Titans?
I've liked Fulton. I think he's played pretty well and been an upgrade certainly at that spot. But, you know, too many big plays. I think it looked good against the Colts because you were going against a quarterback who didn't have the ability to extend the plays the way Russell Wilson and Zach Wilson did. I think the Titans did well against a limited quarterback with Carson Wentz, but too many big plays in all the other games. And I think, Vrabel said after the game, he said, well, we had guys standing there this time, unlike Seattle when we let them run free. So I guess that's progress, right?
Chose not to cover them, I think.
Yes.
He said, yeah. He gets in some zingers.
He does. Every now and
then. Sometimes there's some underrated little moments in there. Yeah. So we've been talking about this Urban Meyer thing, Gentry, and I don't know if you've seen all the different angles of the video now, but it makes this a really interesting week. I mean, it was already, I guess, interesting. First chance for the Titans to see Trevor Lawrence and Urban Meyer, and Vrabel worked for Urban and all that stuff. Like, do you think that this is going to have any sort of impact on the Jaguars this week?
I mean, I can't see it impacting the game in such a way, only because, I mean, that team's terrible. They're just not any good. I mean, I don't know how much of a negative impact you can have. If anything, I think they're probably going to have a little more confidence because they played reasonably well, and losing to the Bengals, they really could have won that game. So maybe they're feeling a little better than they were, but I think it probably hurts the Jags what happened to the Titans against the Jets. I think they're going to get the Titans in a bad mood. That's probably not a good thing for the Jaguars, who pretty much haven't been able to tackle Derrick Henry now for about 3 years.
Well, speaking of, Derrick Henry lost in all this. Another big game on Sunday. Still on pace for a lot of carries this year, a lot of touches and a lot of yards. Is he good enough? Is this running game good enough to carry the Titans through this while they figure out what's going on in pass blocking in the offensive line? Or is it as simple offensively for the Titans that if you can't block any better and protect your quarterback, you're just in a big world of hurt as they move forward here?
Well, it's pretty amazing to me if you look at the Jets. The Jets had played pretty well against the run going into this game. And usually, if you're crowding the line of scrimmage and trying to do these things, it's hard to run for 150 yards like Derrick Henry did, but he does this kind of thing routinely. And it doesn't always make sense. He does it against defenses that clearly are geared up to stop him, and, they stick with it, and all of a sudden, he's getting 3 yards, now 5 yards, now 8 yards, and by the end of the game, he's just really wearing teams out. And it's a formula that I think out of anything the Titans do, and you want to talk about, I think getting, obviously A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, getting those guys back is a big deal, I think, in helping the pass game for sure. And their longest completion against the Jets was a screen pass to Jeremy McNichols, so that's not what you want. But I think, what they do with Henry, as long as he's healthy, I don't really see how a team can consistently stop that. And if anything, I credit the Titans because they haven't gotten away from that. If anything, they're leaning more on Derrick Henry than they were. And Todd Downing figured out something pretty quick that it took Arthur Smith about halfway through his first season as coordinator to figure out, which is just give that guy the ball and get out of his way.
Yeah. Now, of course, I mean, the thing is, it's like I feel like I'm hypocritical, and maybe other people are too, because I ask about and talk about workload, right, with Derrick Henry, and it's like, man, how can you possibly sustain this? But on the other hand, constantly like, how do you take him off the field? You're taking him off the field on 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, whatever, right? I mean, it's incredible. Like, they are absolutely leaning on him. I don't know if there's a team that leans on a player who takes that kind of punishment more than they do him, and yet you could make the case that he should be on the field more often.
Yeah, no doubt. And not only, I hear you on the workload stuff, and I think that too, but it's like with Derrick, until he shows he can't do it, I don't think we can just assume that he can't do it. The durability is off the charts. And plus, you're looking at a guy that going into the season, he was drafted the same year as Zeke Elliott. But Zeke Elliott has a lot more carries in his career than Derrick Henry does. He was underutilized his first few years in the NFL. So yeah, he's getting wear and tear now, but if you look at the course of his career, and even at Alabama, he split carries up until his last year when he won the Heisman Trophy. So he really doesn't have the same wear as some of the same star running backs who are his age. And, I mean, you know, anytime you doubt what that guy can do, he goes and does it.
Gentry Estes from the Tennessean has been our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. Gentry, great stuff, man. Appreciate you taking time to join us this morning. All right.
He just hung up on us. And Gentry's mad. He's mad I made him watch Vandy UConn in New York on Saturday night.
We forgot to ask him about that. What a viewing experience that was.
Hey, I mean, an entire, block of Manhattan was just totally just wrapped up in that game.
That's
I'll tell
right.
you something, man.
We'll come back. We'll continue the discussion on the Titans and get to some more developments on the Urban Meyer front as we speak right now on Twitter. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Our video streaming brought to you by the law offices of Amanda Gentry. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by Volunteer State Bank. Visit ballstatebank.com to learn more about their free Kasasa checking account. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Michelle Knezovic here with you on this Tuesday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Joe, we've discussed the Urban Meyer situation extensively this morning here on the show, and there appear to be, potentially, more developments on that front. This coming from Michael Lombardi, at M. Lombardi NFL on Twitter. Quote, according to 2 Jacksonville sources, there are many closed-door meetings happening over the last 2 days in the football offices, and none of them have anything to do with the Titans. Stay tuned. This might get ugly. Lombardi, after that, quote tweeting a tweet from Michael McCann at McCann Sports Law. 2 employment contract terms might become tied to this development with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Quote, morals clause and for cause. So if you read between the lines there, like are the Jags having meetings about maybe firing Urban Meyer 4 games into his tenure with the Jacksonville Jaguars? As Lombardi said, this is going to be interesting to watch. Stay tuned. Quote, this might get ugly.
Wow, man. Okay, this could be a distraction for the Jags.
I would say so.
I keep tying this to the Titans. Yeah, their pass rush may not be as good this week. Man, that's well, let's stay tuned, I guess. So again, this is a big deal. It's just like Robert Kraft or whatever. Whatever you're doing in sports, if Urban is undefeated right now, this is a huge video. This is a huge story. But it's only potentially costing his job if they don't think he can win.
Agreed.
I mean, if Shad Khan felt great about where things are going, and he felt like, and again, we're just speculating on this tweet that there's sources saying that there's meetings, so let's keep that clear.
Right.
But
I always love the term closed-door meetings.
As opposed to let's all have a
meeting. The door's
meeting.
Open.
Yeah.
Just open those things up, baby. Let's go.
Urban, I want to sit here in the common area with you, and I want you to. I want various employees here to overhear what we're talking about. Yeah. If there is anything to this idea that they're actually looking at this with him because of this situation, unless there's more to this situation than we know. I mean, it's a terrible look. Don't get me wrong.
It's bad.
It's a terrible look. But it's because they think that he's just not going to get it done as a football coach. It's awfully early to make that judgment. But
although they've been pretty bad.
Well, but didn't we, who was
we knew they were
who was
bad.
coming in and making them good in the first month of this season after they went 1-15?
Nobody.
Yeah. So, wow.
Jeez.
Would not have anticipated that.
Well, to answer your previous question.
There is a pile of stuff with him that's kind of like, huh?
Yeah.
Huh? And then you get to this.
Yeah. To answer your previous question of whether or not this could have a negative effect on the field, well, I guess if they fire their coach on Wednesday or Thursday this week, yeah, maybe. Might have a bad effect on the field.
Maybe it has
maybe
a
it's a
positive
good effect, yeah.
You got the angry Titans coming off the Jets and the angry Jags. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe they're going to be really happy, too.
Could be.
Too happy. There's so many ways this
Celebratory
could go.
Jags.
Yeah.
Good gracious. I did not expect this early to be talking about Urban Meyer potentially losing his job.
That franchise.
It's 4 games in.
That franchise is on an incredible run of dysfunction.
It is. Godspeed with our friend Todd in Jacksonville on the text line.
I'd like to know what Todd in Jacksonville thinks about this.
I would too.
What does the Jaguars? What does Duval think about all this? I mean, you can't lose faith in Urban Meyer as a coach because they've sucked in the first month. Well, they're a terrible team, right?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't think so. But to your point, there is a lot that comes with Urban Meyer, and it's not just on the field, right? I mean, we talked about the strength coach stuff and how that was a bad look. Look, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for a player on the Jags, and I don't know whether or not this has happened, but a player on the Jags to say, all right, you're bringing in the college guy, and this is the way that he's going to do things. Is that really going to work? Is that going to translate in the NFL? Like, with as dysfunctional as that place is, I wouldn't be surprised if like there are some players internally, even before all this stuff, that say, man, this is who you brought in to be our coach, this guy that runs this offense in college. This is not going to work. Now, again, to your point, it's 4 games in. It's really, really a small sample size. And, there have been a couple games where they played okay for stretches. I mean, they hung in there with Arizona. Arizona, obviously, pretty good team, 4-0, undefeated in the NFC. The Thursday night game was wildly entertaining, comparatively speaking, to my expectations heading into it between the Bengals and the Jags. So it's not like they've just been totally embarrassed so far this year, but they're not very good. I don't think there's any question about that.
Look, there's no absolute on the college to pro thing. Pete Carroll's been all right. By the way, Cliff Kingsbury, and I didn't like that hire.
Good gracious.
I'm like, man, this guy and his offense, and he's just young, hot. How many young, hot shot guys are you going to bring him in for college? Well, looks okay. Looks like he's kind of figured some things out in the league, and he's got good players, and they seem to like playing for him. So there's no absolute. Look, I get the fascination with Urban Meyer. He's been incredibly successful as a coach. Yes, at the college level, but extremely successful. And before he just had better players every single week, he was doing it at Bowling Green in Utah too. So pretty good track record of being able to figure things out. Stuff I didn't even know until last year working on that story on him and Vrabel and stuff is like the intensity of like holding people accountable and putting people on the spot and stuff like that, which doesn't sound great necessarily, but has worked for him. Does that work in the NFL?
Well, does that work now? Holding people accountable. Like, how do you, what does that mean now?
There's also that. Yeah, when you do something like this, some of those words get a little emptier.
Let's go to our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jim from Springfield texting in. I think maybe Urban Meyer was just showing the young lady how he taught Trevor Lawrence to place his hands under center at quarterback.
They do a lot of shotgun, though. So
Thank you, Jim.
They're not under center a ton. So, but maybe.
Maybe so.
Seriously, the more I hadn't seen that video until you showed it to me. Holy crap.
Yeah. Ben texting in, this could be horrible news for the Titans long term. I would rather they kept Urban. Imagine if the Jaguars get a real coach to help Trevor Lawrence build a dynasty for the next decade.
Yeah, who knows?
Could be horrible news for the Titans. I don't know.
They haven't been great at hiring lately.
They have not.
But
going to be fascinating.
It's always possible.
Well, you said, look, we've not heard the last of this story, and that was, I don't know.
Yeah.
28 minutes ago when you said that.
I think today is not a good day for Twitter to go down. So don't, please.
Yeah. Nate on Twitter.
More to come here.
Nate on Twitter. Do you think USC will be interested in Urban if he gets fired from the Jags? I can see where they say never mind because of the video, but I know schools will do almost anything to win. Where is the line drawn?
Well, first of all, Nate, I've never, ever for a second bought Urban USC stuff, and I don't think he would go there. So that's how I'd call that a slightly educated opinion, which is better than a lot of my opinions. Well, I don't think he'd go there anyway. So, but that's a good question. Like if this went bad, what's the level of hiring Urban for a college program?
I mean, somebody would hire him.
Somebody would if he wanted to, but then I don't see him. Who knows? Who knows with him, right?
You never know with that
why
guy.
even speculate? I mean, I can't even. This has changed how I look at Urban Meyer.
Just so bad.
Absolutely
Awful.
Oh, boy.
It's awful. And it's just, to me, it's, from everything I know, completely unlike him. You know what I mean?
It's also just
there's a lot of fair criticism of Urban Meyer and stuff,
right.
But not stuff like this.
Also just really sad if you're his family. You can't even go on social media right now.
Oh, no. It's not a good place to be.
You may not be able to go to the grocery store right
I was
now.
about to say, yeah. It's not good stuff. When we come back, we'll have a special buy or sell edition with the AFC and the NFC. We'll start with the AFC coming up next. Make sure you stay tuned for that. Take your thoughts as well on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Attention, men, have you been struggling with erectile dysfunction? Well, Hillside Medical Clinic has a breakthrough treatment for ED that does not require any pills, injections, or surgery. And right now, Andrew from Hillside Medical Clinic joins me to tell us all about it. Andrew, what's going on, man? How we doing?
Hey, I am doing well, and yes, we have a major medical advancement here. If you're out there struggling with ED, frustrated in the bedroom, probably hating the pill, Hillside Medical uses the most studied form of wave technology. With gentle pressure waves, this opens up and regrows blood vessels. So it treats the root cause of the problem and has helped so many men get back to normal in the bedroom.
So, Andrew, when you talk about the new technology, maybe the natural question for some listeners is, what kind of studies have been done on this technology?
Significant studies. In fact, at hillsidemedicalclinic.com, we have 50 studies from the Cleveland Clinic, Cambridge University, and so many others saying this is safe, this is effective. One study called this the new standard of care for erectile dysfunction.
And I hear you have a special offer if the listeners call in right now.
Yes, if you're ready to regain your love life, guys, there's no obligation to this today and no cost. That's pretty great. The assessment exam and blood flow ultrasound is free this morning, plus a gift that produces immediate results in the bedroom. You guys will love that. Trust me, it's worth about $500. We're doing it free to callers now.
That's right. You heard it, guys. You can put a stop to your erectile dysfunction by treating the root cause of the problem. Call Hillside Medical Clinic right now to qualify for that offer. 615-576-5000, 615-576-5000. Put a stop to your ED and regain your love life. Call Hillside Medical Clinic at 615-576-5000. Don't miss Nashville's best NFL pregame show live from Corner Pub in Bellevue this Sunday. The NFL pregame show features Jared Stillman, Mark Howard, and former Titans wide receiver Chris Sanders. Join them from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. live at Corner Pub in Bellevue at 8058 Tennessee Highway 100 prior to the Titans taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. The NFL pregame show is brought to you by TriStar Moving, Parman Tractor and Equipment, FreedomTireGuys.com, FanDuel, E2 Roofing, Hillside Medical, Social Furniture, and Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5. The Game brought to you by Volunteer State Bank. Real people, real solutions right here. Remember FDIC, Equal Housing Lender. Rexrode.
That's fine. That's a new one.
There's a new one every day, whether it's from me or on the text line. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
There's a new Urban Meyer revelation every 10 minutes, too.
Apparently so.
My favorite's the Rex Bachelorette. Bachelor Rex.
Bachelor X? That was a pretty good one.
The Bachelor X.
Yeah.
Nice.
New episode of the Bachelor X tonight.
Well, Urban Meyer could be a contestant.
It's actually Paradise, Robbie. Bachelor in Paradise.
That's
but
true.
It's okay.
Hey, thank you. Looking forward to that tonight.
Urban's heading to Paradise.
Yeah, could be. We have a special buy or sell edition. We're going to do the AFC and the NFC. So, Joe, I'm going to read off some teams in the AFC, and you tell me that you either buy the start to the season and they're going to be a good team or a bad team, or you sell what we've seen thus far through. I guess, we used to judge the NFL season through, hey, you've got 4 quarters, the first 4 games. And now there's 17 games, and we can't really do that. This thing is just all out of whack now.
Yeah. Well, Derrick Henry is on a pace to break the NFL rushing record right now.
I know.
But it'll have an asterisk if he does, unless he does it in 16, I guess.
All right.
Stupid.
So we begin in the AFC North. The Cincinnati Bengals, 3-1 to begin the season. They are tied with the Ravens and the Browns atop the AFC North. The Steelers at 1-3 at the bottom. Cincinnati, 3-1. Are you buying or selling the Cincinnati Bengals?
Selling. I mean, I think they're going to be better this year. I did watch quite a bit of that game against the Jags, which was actually Urban Bar Eve. Actually, I didn't realize
it was
at the time. But I'm selling them as I don't think they're a playoff team. I think they're going to be improved. I think they're probably going to be like a 7-8 win kind of team.
Yep.
They'll rise up and get a few people.
They're going to score some points.
Yeah, I think that I love Jamar Chase and Burrow's going to be good, and their D still isn't great, and their offensive line still needs work. So I'm selling.
The Baltimore Ravens, to me, a very interesting team. They've had a lot of injuries, obviously. They are 3-1, including a victory on a 66-yard field goal banking in off the uprights against the Detroit Lions. Do you buy or do you sell the Baltimore Ravens at 3-1?
So just to make sure I know the terms here, buying and selling means what exactly?
You buying a playoff team.
Yeah. Okay. So that's just to make the playoffs.
Yep.
Well, okay, so can you buy a team without necessarily saying that you definitely think they're going to be in the playoffs?
I mean, give you half the money up front.
I mean, because I'm buying them as a team that's going to be there at the end. I don't know if they're going to get in. I'll buy them. I'll buy the Ravens, but because I think they're definitely better than Bengals. The Steelers, I think, might be actually an easy mark this year. And the Browns are the class of that division, I believe, based on what we see now. It's interesting with the Browns, too, because their defense was astoundingly good Sunday, and their offense actually was bad.
Yeah.
But I'll buy the Ravens. I still just think they've got a I can't use the word culture. Don't use the word culture. You know what I mean. Something other, that means culture.
Yeah.
They got a standard of play and a toughness about them. It's actually kind of like the long term, the stability with Harbaugh and everything. I mean, it's kind of reminiscent of the Steelers a little bit. Different, obviously, and then they've obviously gone a different way with Lamar Jackson. He's still a heck of a player. They still have a pretty good defense. I'll buy them to scratch their way in.
By the way, a big game coming up on Monday night between the Colts and the Ravens. That's going to be an interesting one to watch. I'm going to assume you're buying the Cleveland Browns, so I'll skip them. What
Yes.
about the Pittsburgh Steelers at 1-3? Is there any chance they rebound with Ben Roethlisberger still at the helm?
Michelle's hoping so. You know what? No, I don't buy them as a playoff team. I'm also not necessarily, and I just said they're going to be an easy mark. Yet I'm not necessarily buying what I just said. You know, I mean, I still feel like they got enough there, I think, to win some close defensive games and, you know, be better. But that's the thing. I mean, they're secondary too. Like they're a very flawed team. So
They can generate some pass rush.
They absolutely can generate some pass rush. And I still think, you know, Najee Harris in a lot of weeks is going to be a nice weapon for them. But, yeah, Roethlisberger looks more his age than other quarterbacks in this league.
Do you buy or sell the Las Vegas Raiders at 3-1 in the AFC West? 3-1 for the Raiders.
I mean, the problem is you're getting into, you know, like how many teams do you think are making the playoffs, you know? I'm going to do the math now because, you know, I think it's almost like you can't buy the Raiders and the Colts, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's easier now to just discount the Dolphins and Patriots, although I actually think the Patriots can make things interesting if Mac Jones plays like that. I think I'm going to sell the Raiders. I just think last night they were getting dominated. And Derek Carr went on a little run. They actually got a stop, and they made it a one-score game, but their defense is not good.
No.
You know, like Max Crosby is a great pass rusher. They've got some guys on that side of the ball, but they've given up 100 points here in 4 games. That's not a huge number. But remember, they also played the limited Ravens. I don't think that they're good enough defensively. And I think that Carr is a very good quarterback, but ultimately not exactly what they wish he was.
The LA Chargers. They're off to an impressive start, 3-1. Justin Herbert's played really well so far. Do you buy the LA Chargers as a playoff team, a legitimate threat in the AFC?
Absolutely. Who'd they lose to?
They lost to...
I'm like, how did that team lose after watching them play the last 2 weeks? They lost. Yeah, that's right. They lost a close game to the Cowboys.
Correct.
By the way, it might be kind of good. Sad for the rest of the NFL to say. Yeah, I'm buying them big time. I think Herbert's good. I don't know if he's, you know, pushing for the top tier, but he's good. He's a good quarterback. The receivers are good. Eckler is a really nice player, and they've got some guys on D. Well, Joey Bosa needs to shave that cheesy mustache, but that's a good team.
Are you buying the Kansas City Chiefs? And hear me out on this. Everyone knows what they can be offensively. Everyone knows they're amazing with Patrick Mahomes. Their defense has given up 29, 36, 30, and 30 in 4 games so far. Do you buy the Kansas City Chiefs? We'll start with a playoff team, but I think I know your answer there. Do you buy them being anywhere near as legitimate of an overwhelming threat as they have been the last couple of years?
Well, I buy them as the team I'm still picking to win the AFC. But overwhelming, well, I don't know about that. I mean, I think it's going to be a tougher road. Good bounce back. And, you know, the 30 last week, that was kind of garbage time-ish with the Eagles. But, yeah, their D is nothing to write home about, no doubt. I think that ultimately offense is the name of the game in this league. So have that elite offense, have what I still think can be the best offense in the NFL because the offensive line has been largely fixed.
Yep.
Have an okay defense, and I think they still have enough players on that side of the ball to be okay.
It's not been okay thus far.
It hasn't been. But I'm going to buy them. I can't take September and these issues they have and make too much of it.
I think everybody would buy the Buffalo Bills. What about the Tennessee Titans? 2-2, the Tennessee Titans. Do you buy or sell the Titans based off what we've seen through 4 games.
Yeah, I mean, I still buy the Titans to win the AFC South and play a home playoff game. So I still think they're going to figure that out, get that done. But I mean, I buy them less as a contender right now. It's just really hard to say. And it's when you say this, some people take it as making excuses. It's not, but it's hard to know how good they can be because we haven't seen nearly their best, and some of that is purely for health reasons. Some of it is not. Like, I don't understand what's going on with Nate Davis right now, you know? And I must say, like, the defense, I think it's there's been some good stretches here, but Sunday was one of those, boy. If that offense, that offensive line, that collection of players just sort of takes over the game and feel that they can move up and down the field on you, that is a bad sign moving forward. But I'm buying them to be in the postseason, to win the AFC South, and then we'll see.
We'll continue buy or sell. Coming up next with the NFC. Take your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Play silly underdog picks today. Pick 3 football underdog teams you think will win this week for a chance to win. Go to thegamenashville.com for more details and to play. Silly Underdog Picks is presented by Volunteer Hose and Gasket. We'll be right back. Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, brought to you by Volunteer State Bank, now with 2 locations in Murfreesboro. Visit their brand new Murfreesboro location at 2019 Memorial Boulevard. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Talking buy or sell in the NFL. Taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. We've done the AFC, now switching gears to the NFC. And, Joe, we begin with, I think, the second most intriguing division in the NFC. Can we just put it on record? Do you buy or sell the entire NFC West?
Yes. Yeah. I'm buying the whole thing. Big
win for Seattle.
Big win for Seattle.
Jimmy G's hurt.
Yeah.
Trey Lance is coming in.
He is, but it's just a calf bruise. So, I mean, I think if that had gone bad, and Trent Williams was, they thought, seriously injured, and he's okay too. So that could have gone real bad for them. But I'm going to still buy them too. I mean, you know, that's big. The Cali teams took home losses to the other teams, and frankly, a little bit surprising on both fronts.
Arizona could go 17-0.
I mean, it's on the table. Watch out, 72 Dolphins.
It is on the table. Now to the second most intriguing division in the NFC. In my opinion, the NFC South. Start with Carolina. Carolina's 3-1. They just lost to the Cowboys. Sam Darnold's played pretty well thus far. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey is hurt, and he'll be back maybe here in a couple of weeks. We'll see what happens on that front. Do you buy or sell the Carolina Panthers in Matt Rule's second year?
I'm selling. It's been a nice start. I think he's done a nice job. And the defense has been good, but they're getting very banged up. And Darnold, you know, he's better there. He had some real bad moments against the Cowboys.
He did.
You know, I'm selling them. I think that they're – I mean, again, like you can go through this whole conference, and I think there's a clear division winner in the other 3 divisions, and then I think it's the NFC West.
Yeah.
I mean, I really do. Like the Vikings, you know, I had a thought that maybe they could do something, but that's just, you can't lose that game at home and go to 1-3.
That was a tough loss.
And score 7 points.
God. Did not look good offensively against the Browns. What may be, in my opinion, certainly the most difficult team for me to figure out in the NFC, but maybe the entire league, the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah.
2-2. They dominated the Packers, got a good win in Foxborough against the Patriots. And then they've dropped 2 where you just kind of look around and say, huh? The New Orleans Saints at 2-2. Do you buy or do you sell with Jameis Winston leading the way at quarterback?
And I've got to sell. And there's been times when I was ready to buy. But you can't. As bad as, you know, the Titans losing to the Jets in overtime, losing at home to the Giants in overtime. My goodness.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Got to sell them. I think they're going to be all over the map. They have definitely enough talent. And, again, Winston on certain weeks is going to torch somebody. And then he's just it's just inconsistent, man. So they're like an 8-9, 9-8 kind of team that misses the playoffs.
I assume you buy the Bucs, Tom Brady and company.
Oh, yeah.
The Chicago Bears at 2-2 in second place in the NFC North. Who knows who their quarterback is going to be on a weekly basis? Justin Fields had some good moments. You'll have some good moments when you play against the Detroit Lions. That's what we've learned so far this year. Do you buy or do you sell the Chicago Bears at 2-2 with apparently, Joe, 3 quality NFL quarterbacks on their roster?
Yeah. They could only combine them into one. Yeah, I'm going to sell big time on the Bears. And I think even just the distraction of, you know, Nagy might be fired here, right? I mean, I think a lot of people think he's like number 1 in the hot seat. Well, he was until apparently like a couple days ago. Urban's line dancing has changed things. But I don't buy. And, you know, it's interesting with Nagy too. Like, I understand all the people who are like clamoring for Justin Fields. I also actually get why you want to. It's kind of in his best interest to not just say go out there and here let's let it rock. But then again, Andy Dalton's not very good, so that is a distraction on top of they're just not that good. They're a good defense. They're a 9-8. I hate 9-8. 9-8 type of team, but that's about what they are.
Do you buy or sell the Packers?
Oh, I'm buying the Packers.
All right.
They're the Packers,
That division.
the Bucks, and the Cowboys.
Yep.
Are winning their divisions. I think going away.
So you are fully on board with the Cowboys. Now, look, they've looked very good.
To win the NFC East.
Correct.
Going away. That still doesn't necessarily speak that well of you, you know?
It doesn't. But they've looked awfully impressive through 4 games.
Yeah.
And Dak Prescott has played like an MVP candidate through 4 games. And honestly, if you had to pick an MVP right now, he might be it through 4 games, the way that he's played. You know, we've seen this from the Cowboys before, where they come out of the gate strong and then things go haywire and they start to fumble around as the end of the year approaches. I kind of feel like this team's pretty good. They seem to be pretty good, and much like the Titans and what the goal should be for the Titans as they continue to get healthy, the offense for the Cowboys is great.
Loaded.
And the defense has gotten better to the point where it's okay.
Yep.
It's an okay defense. And there they are at 3-1.
That's the NFL formula, and I agree. Now, as we finished the show yesterday, and as I'm packing up my room in New York, I have ESPN on, and I'm listening to Michael Irvin tell Stephen A. Smith how he would take Dak Prescott over any other quarterback in the NFL. And the absolute –
Interesting.
there are times with Stephen A. where it's gold, because the absolute disbelief in his voice and on his face, which was totally warranted. Yes. Like, everyone felt the same way. Like, and he actually said, "You're going to pay for this. You can't have that take and not pay for it." It's like, come on. But Dak Prescott is playing very well. And you're right. Right now, would he not be at the top of the MVP list? I mean, his numbers are
He'd be on the short list for sure.
So, no, I'm definitely buying them as the best team in that division. I mean, I think Washington is like how about 8-9? Maybe. That's like
they got a really
tops.
good defense.
Yeah, that's about tops for them. And maybe not even that. Like, the Cowboys might win that division by like 5 games.
They might.
So, yeah.
Mike McCarthy coaching them up. Just think if he knew how to manage a clock, how good they'd be.
Yeah,
that's been a struggle so far.
Guy's kind of been on scholarship, hasn't he?
Let's go to our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Eric in Bellevue texting in, selling Urban Meyer, buying Tim Tebow for next head coach. That would be a very Jags thing to do.
Bring Tebow
Tim,
back to
come
coach.
on down, buddy. Get in here and coach.
Yeah, sure.
Had some morality problems with the last one. Don't have to worry about that with Tebow. Come on in there.
You would think, right?
You would think.
You would think that Tebow would not go to the bar and grope someone.
Jason in Clarksville texting in, it's hard to tell how Joe really feels about the 17-game schedule. I agree. You've not made that clear enough, I don't think.
Since I could count, okay, you talk about NFL teams in 16-game terms. This is bad. This is dumb.
I'm really interested when we finally get to the 17th game this year to get your thoughts on what that feels like. Are you going to be excited for one more week of regular season football before the playoffs? How's this going to shake out with Rexrode? I'm really interested to see how that goes down.
I'm mostly over it. You know, it is what it is, and they're going to go to 18 in this league that's devoted to player safety. But again, things are collectively bargained, and there's a lot of money to be had. And I am someone who always screams at people who cry about the Beef O'Brady's Bowl because you're bitching about having more football, and that's kind of what I'm doing here. So I'm mostly over it. I'll be fine. Just here and there, we start talking about projected records. It just strikes me again how dumb it is.
Congratulations preemptively to Derrick Henry for rushing for 2,300 yards this year.
Yeah, exactly.
When we come back, we'll be joined by Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports. We'll get his take on Urban Meyer and all the other hot topics around the NFL. That's coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in. Final hour of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5. The Game brought to you by Volunteer State Bank. Real people, real solutions right here. Remember, FDIC, equal housing lender. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Michelle Knezovic here with you on this Tuesday morning in Nashville, Tennessee, talking all things NFL. And to help us do that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our good friend Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports. Charles, what's going on, brother? How we doing?
I'm doing well. Not seeing any of my grandkids. Well, we're going to start using that euphemism now.
Well, that is very good. So, Charles, we've talked a lot about that today here on the show. It's been quite the weekend for Urban Meyer. And the press conference yesterday was something else. Wow, all sorts of different angles of videos came out yesterday on social media as well. I guess my question for you is, what have you made of this entire situation, and what happens next? And we talked earlier in the show. Dan Orlovsky on ESPN said yesterday if he was a player in that locker room, he wouldn't want to play for Urban Meyer anymore. There's talk now about closed-door meetings in Jacksonville and maybe a morality clause coming up. What do you think happens from here with Urban Meyer and the Jags?
Well, I will say that every press conference he just appears to be having a wonderful time. He really seems to be enjoying coaching in the NFL level. He leads the nation in press conferences staring at his shoes. Like it's amazing how miserable he already appears. And we're 4 games into his NFL tenure. I look, the video itself, not a great look. Obviously, it's not anything that violates the personal conduct, policy or anything like that. As I've kind of said, maybe a morality clause in your marriage. Like, I'm sure he's got plenty to talk about with his wife. And, I thought his explanation of, being asked to dance and then, hey, other angles of the video come out and you're like, this is an interesting way that people in Ohio ask each other to dance, apparently.
It's like ask him to dance so he'll stop groping, I guess.
Yeah, right. I'm like, really? That's how you get that done in Ohio? I'm dancing around it here. I mean, it's awful. Like, when something like that comes out, it's awfully embarrassing for your franchise. But it comes down to how embarrassed is your ownership at this point? Because, as I've said, like the rigid mandate in the NFL, it's about winning. Like, it's about winning and losing, and then the flexibility is kind of gifted to the moral compass. But the two can affect each other. And the more you lose, the less flexible the moral compass becomes. And, given that this was a guy who, hires the strength and conditioning coach who's, was last stop at Iowa, produced a racial discrimination lawsuit. And then, Urban brings the guy aboard, he resigns, and the first thing Urban says is like, we didn't need a distraction. I'm like, oh my God, like, out of your own mouth last February, you say that. And since then, the number of distractions, big and small, that Urban has, created himself, has been pretty amazing. And this one, though, is just, for him to, in that press conference, talk about what he told Trevor Lawrence about his bachelor party in Las Vegas and, paying it, being careful and watching the people around him. I'm like, I can't even believe he admitted that. Like, it was like he shoveled more dirt on himself in the middle of a press conference. And you sit there and you're like, does this guy want to get fired at this point? Like, what is he trying to, lose the job? Like, not flying back on the team flight. And then this happening in the wake of that, particularly coming off a game where you're competitive. Your number 1 draft pick quarterback had, I think, his strongest game this season. Stats weren't, hammered. It wasn't like the hammer was down with the stats, but he looked good. He led well. I thought he looked strong and confident. You should be talking about that. And instead, we're talking about this. And, I don't know, Dan Orlovsky saying, like, players in that locker room, I don't know if I'd want to play for Urban Meyer, all that stuff. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like there's some pearl clutching that goes on in the NFL because we act like it's this league of, like, there's not a moral turpitude factor in the NFL. But I wrote about it today. I'm like, hey, we were just talking about Robert Kraft being on video. There's legal he's going through a legal case because he's supposedly on video soliciting prostitution. Before that, it's Jim Irsay driving around with $29,000 in a briefcase and a trash bag and, bottles of meds in his car. Before that, it's, there's how many videos of Jerry Jones where you're kind of like wincing. Jerry Richardson had to sell a team because of things that he said, that were completely out of pocket inside his organization. Dan Snyder has been stripped of the power to, stripped of basically power to operate, for the Washington franchise. And that's just the owners. Like, we haven't even gotten to the players. It wasn't that long ago that there was an assistant coach for the Dolphins doing cocaine lines off a desk on a video. Like, where this ranks, let's be honest, where this ranks, not really in the top 100 or maybe 1,000 worst things that we've seen in the NFL the last 10 years. Now, is it a train wreck? Yeah, because he's been bad in Jacksonville. And they have the greatest the greatest resource they've ever gotten in Trevor Lawrence ever in the history of that franchise. And to me, if he wants to whitewash the situation, every other thing he's done that's been bad there, get Trevor Lawrence on the right track. By the end of the season, people will have forgotten all this stupid stuff. Maybe his wife won't have, but everybody else will have.
Well, that's the thing. Like this, and I don't know, who was it? Michael Lombardi?
Yeah.
It's something about these closed-door meetings right now on Twitter. Like, to me, if the ownership has any thought at all about this being that impactful, it's only because they have determined, and it's very early to determine this, but hey, this is an interesting franchise, that he's just not going to get it done. I mean, you can't possibly know that right now, right? I think.
It depends on. We've seen other things report. Jason Lockett weeks ago reported some stuff that, if this stuff's all factual, it sounds like there's been a lot of ineptitude inside the franchise since he's gotten there. I don't think it's. I will tell you this: the read on his coaching staff, when you talk to people around the league, people aren't very impressed with the coaching staff he put together. Some of the things that he's done personnel-wise, like I criticize him for drawing out a quarterback competition that made no sense whatsoever. And then you deal the guy who supposedly you were thinking about starting. Like, you give Trevor Lawrence first-team snaps and tell everybody the second he walked in the door, that's the starting quarterback. Get on board. We're going to develop him from literally the second we have a chance to start developing him as a starting quarterback. Instead of Urban play games, the Travis Etienne thing, like, oh, we're going to, try him out at wide out again. It's just, he creates. Dan Wetzel and I we talked about this one day, and Dan's like, man, if you had paid attention to this guy at Ohio State consistently, he's like, and Florida, he just creates an environment of chaos, and he likes to live in the middle of that. And this is no different than anything else, any other stop. The only difference is, he can't control the narrative. And when I was thinking about it yesterday, I was talking to another league source, and he made a really good point. He said, it's funny. He said, if you screw up at Ohio State or you lose a game or whatever, he said, you're going to put 40 on somebody the next week. You're going to beat somebody by 40 the next week, and it immediately quiets down some of the detraction. Like, it's the end of the world at Ohio State the second you lose your first game because you might not win the national championship, but you can rebound pretty quickly into your own strength. It's not like that in the NFL. You got a bad team, you lose, you might lose 6 or 7 more in a row, and you're living in a world of hurt, and that's what he is experiencing now. This is completely different than anything Urban Meyer's ever experienced in his life, not being able to control the narrative and then living in just abject failure like one week after another, and now he's piling on, to it with just stupid decisions.
Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports on the line with us, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Charles, are you buying the Dallas Cowboys as a legitimate threat in the NFC?
Oh, yeah, in the NFL. I mean, I think this is the Cowboys' offense with Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard playing the way they are, with the strength of the offensive line. And remember, Lyle Collins is still suspended, but, I talked to a pro personnel guy who did some advanced work on the Cowboys yesterday, and he was saying that Terrence Steele, their right tackle, who was, in many ways struggled, and that's being kind, last season, has turned into one of their most improved players this year. So now when Lyle Collins comes back, gives you some flexibility on an already healthy offensive line. Maybe keep Steele at right tackle, move Collins to guard where he crushed it earlier in his career. Offensively, like I said, the wide receivers, even without Michael Gallup, have been great. All the way down the depth chart, you have the tight ends are now creating problems for opponents. They use Connor McGovern, a guard, as a fullback. So they're starting to do some things creatively that we haven't seen, and that's just the offense. The defense is what I worried about, but Trevon Diggs he looks like a lockdown cornerback, like a top 3-4 cornerback in the league right now. You have Micah Parsons, who they flexed to defensive end kind of just because they had to when DeMarcus Lawrence went down, and he's been brilliant in that position. So now you have a linebacker with edge rush flexibility. Randy Gregory, comes out, gets a couple sacks against the Carolina Panthers. I thought it was telling it's a Panthers. Very good team, very good defense. Matt Rule came out and was like, he was asked about Dak Prescott, and he was like, no, man, it's Zeke. He's like, we stacked the box and could not stop that guy. I'm paraphrasing here, but he basically was like, we did everything we could to stop them running and could not stop them running, and that destroyed basically what we could do from a continuity standpoint on defense. I think the Cowboys are definitely a team that they're going to be a handful for everybody, not just offensively, but when DeMarcus Lawrence comes back, you have all these other players that are starting to show their ability to kind of lead and star in that defense. They're a far better team than I thought. It was sort of like a 50-50 proposition. Maybe they'll be good on offense, bad on defense, and that's how you end up with a middle-of-the-road team. But they're a lot better on defense than I thought, a lot more talent.
Well, I'll bring it local here, Charles. How bad is it to lose to the New York Jets?
I'll say this: that Jets defensive line, the front end of it, I had not seen them look that good all season long, and I don't know if that's a function of. I mean, obviously we saw the breakdowns of the Tennessee Titans offensive line, so I don't know if it's a function of just Tennessee's offensive line playing poorly, or the Jets have talent on the front end of that defense. Those first-round picks have been invested in that defense. And, Robert Salah, I mean, if you're looking at San Francisco right now and you're like, hey, what's the thing that's really missing, particularly from the defense? It was how I saw the Jets play, up front in this game. So it's not good. I mean, obviously, I was fine going to overtime. I thought, hey, you got momentum back on your side. I expected the Titans to take it over overtime and win the game, and then it didn't happen. And, I just think, again, we've talked about the offensive line before. It's hard to fix something like that in the middle of a season. It is not. If you're trying to fix your offensive line in the middle of a season and it's not a situation where there's just missing pieces and, they're going to come back off of IR and that's going to change things. But everybody's out there and they're fighting through whatever their problems are, be it injuries or, just issues in execution. It's very hard to fix that. So to me, that's what I'd be worried about with I mean, if you just want to boil it down to like one basic thing, I'd just say that offensive line not being consistent. Like I thought they turned a corner, and then you come into this game and I'm just like, man, Tannehill has no time, and it's a Jets team that has been fairly, I don't want to say toothless, but it looked like world beaters, and Tannehill to me looked like he was running for his life in the limited cut-ups I saw in the game. So it's tough. I mean, the Titans are going to have to figure out a way to, I don't know if you shuffle it. You just hope maybe there's some guys that are still not fully healthy. I don't know the guys round into health during the season, and I would say it's going to be another off season of trying to figure out how you can fix that. They're going to have to attack it kind of the way the Chiefs did last year. I really, truly believe that. The Chiefs were like, our offensive line was a mess, and we can't let that ever happen again. Chiefs went out and spent a ton of money and put all their energy into addressing the line in front of Patrick Mahomes, and I think that's something the Titans are probably going to have to just bite the bullet and do.
Charles, last thing for you here. What did you make of the Brady return to Foxborough, and are you concerned yet, if you're a Bucs fan, about the amount of injuries, specifically on defense, that continue to pile up?
Yeah, I mean, the injuries definitely. They win that game and they come out of it, but I know Bruce Arians said Richard Sherman played well, which probably true considering a guy walks off the street and in a couple of days he's a starting corner. They threw at him a lot, and he's going to get that until I think he can show, he can be a little more effective, especially, he plays a lot of off coverage, and I just think I don't know how they're going to overcome, the spate of injuries in the secondary. When you think about the run they went on last year, they were so remarkably healthy over the course of the season. I think that really helped them gain that momentum down the stretch. It's been the opposite this year. They're just not healthy at all. And, Brady, I didn't think it was his greatest game. I kind of thought Mac Jones looked better, to be honest with you, if you're just comparing the quarterbacks in a one-off and also the pieces that they have to throw to, the skill position pieces around him. But I also think if there was a game I ever saw Tom Brady look tight, like just look like he was in his head, that he really probably wanted to win a lot and tried really hard to not act like that, that was absolutely this game. He looked like he was just really tight out there and missing some throws and just doing things that he hadn't been doing earlier in the season. And I think a lot of it had to just be the part. Plus, at the end of the game, the kick hits the upright. You could see he's super excited about it. It's clearly a game he cared a lot about, and I'm sure he hopes I don't ever want to have to do that again. Like, that's the last time I want to come back into Gillette.
Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode, joins us every week at 9 o'clock. Charles, great stuff as always, man. Appreciate you taking time to join us.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. When we come back, we'll react to what Charles had to say there. Got a lot more of your thoughts to get to on our text line as well, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Playoff baseball finally here, and this October you can make every moment matter more with FanDuel Sportsbook. And right now, all customers get a $10 same-game parlay bet bonus. Just place a $20 same-game parlay bet on either wild card game and get a $10 bonus, win or lose. You got the Yankees and the Red Sox, the Cardinals and the Dodgers. Give me the Yankees and the Dodgers, unfortunately. I think both of those teams get it done, but you take it any way you want to take it. Offers like this are why I love betting on FanDuel Sportsbook. It's so easy to use. They've got live betting options as well, and they've got great odds boosts and specials for you to take advantage of every day. So if you're new to FanDuel Sportsbook, sign up today with promo code ROB to also receive a risk-free bet up to $1,000. Once again, that promo code is ROB, so they know that I sent you. Must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. Bonus issued as a non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 7 days. A max bonus of $10 plus 400 odds for final price or longer required. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Got a gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789. Go to theGameNashville.com/deals to check out Nashville's best deals. Current deals include half off of gift cards for Retro Snow, Fat Cat Slims, Central Barbecue, Joyland in East Nashville, and Bad Axe Throwing Nashville. Get your deals now at theGameNashville.com/deals. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube today and every day. Our video streaming brought to you by the law offices of Amanda Gentry. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by Volunteer State Bank, conveniently serving Middle Tennessee with 13 locations. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Thanks to Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports for joining us in the last segment. All eyes on Urban Meyer today. We'll see what ends up coming down on this. We talked about the tweets earlier from Michael Lombardi suggesting that maybe some closed-doors meetings going on down in Jacksonville that have nothing to do with the Titans, and maybe even Urban Meyer's job being discussed. That would really be something 4 games into a season.
I mean, but what are you saying about yourself if you were to make this move? I mean, to Charles, I think put it in good context. This is a bad look. Okay, this video is a bad look. It's incredibly stupid and ridiculous of Urban Meyer. But this is you are saying, I completely screwed this up. This guy can't win, and I have determined that after completely screwing it up after a month of football with a team that went 1-15 last year. So basically, I'm an overreacting panicker and should not be trusted to make any more moves for this franchise. And yes, I should sell it. I'm sorry, Duval. That's about it. That's what you're saying.
But doesn't that kind of sound like what they've been the last few years?
You're just confirming. You are confirming it. Yeah. So ultimately, I don't think that you're. I think you're probably not going to make that statement. But I think Charles has a good point. Better show some good Trevor Lawrence stuff this year. Some sign of hope. And hopefully, people will. Well, they won't stop talking about the video. They won't stop making amazing memes like
Dennis.
Yes. Dennis.
Any team that plays Jacksonville will be in that meme.
Yeah.
They'll probably be one of the Tennessee Titans in them next week.
Maybe so.
Or this week.
Well, you're hoping if you're the Titans, number one, you've got to rebound and focus on yourself anyway, because this is an important response game for the Titans coming up against Jacksonville, especially when you factor in what's coming behind the Jaguars on the schedule. But, there should be motivation enough if you're the Titans based on what just happened to you last week. But you also don't want to be the team that in the middle of all this, you go out and Trevor Lawrence throws for 360 and 4 touchdowns against you. And then you're in a world of hurt if you're the Titans.
Right. Yeah, if you're the Titans, you probably aren't spending a lot of time laughing at this video.
I would hope not.
Maybe a minute, right? It's just like anything. Like if you got free time, Taylor Lewan can go do a podcast. People should not have a problem with it. So if the Titans want to have some fun with this, that's fine. You just got to focus and do your work at the same time.
That's right. Heidi from Dixon texting into our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Hear me out, Joe. The Vols throw whatever money it takes at Urban Meyer and get him here when the Jags eventually drop him. We know he can coach college grade, and that's what the Vols need. An established coach instead of taking all these flyers on trash coaches. This is coming from Heidi from Dixon. So if Urban gets the axe from Jacksonville, Danny White making the call.
Well, hey, if cell phone if cell phone videos were as as readily accessible and back in 2009 as they are now,
what could have happened with the Lane train?
Goodness, yeah. Like the Lane train is just laughing at Urban on this thing,
He's got his popcorn ready.
It actually is an interesting thought, Heidi. Is there a long-suffering kind of middling college program out there that sees this as an opportunity? Like, hey, he wants to to sort of put this behind him, and we can bring him in, and he's a great college coach. Of course, at some point you're not the same. Like your career goes a certain way, and then maybe you're not as effective. But I like the thought, Heidi. Hey, real quick on something Charles said. Which I thought was interesting on the offensive line. He said that the Titans would have no choice but to basically go out and free agency themselves to a better offensive line. That's an interesting point. I don't know that I agree with him, but They could be very different up front next year.
Well, I can tell you this. If things don't get better, you're going to free up some cap space because Taylor Lewan won't be here. I mean, it's as simple as that. If he doesn't play better and this line doesn't play better, Taylor Lewan's not going to be here. Now, the dead money would be $1 million. I don't know what the cap hit would be next year for the Titans.
Yeah,
if he were on the roster.
I can look that up. But, yeah, I mean, the next year is when you can get out of it and not just get crushed with the dead money for him. But you also have big numbers, of course, for Saffold and even for Ben Jones to a certain extent. So you could be very different.
And you know what you could have? Maybe another first-round draft pick on the offensive line. Could have one of those next year too.
Well, but you really might have to, which is just a bad deal.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so the cap number the cap number for Lewan is basically $14 million this year. But Saffold is right there. I mean, Saffold's at 12, and you can't completely remake the line, and if you do that, then you're going to go out and spend big money for. I mean, obviously, if you're confident in good players, I mean, John Robinson did. I think Saffold has been a good signing, right?
Yeah.
Ben Jones has been a good signing.
Sure.
Dennis Kelly was a good trade. Nate Davis was a good draft pick.
Taylor Lewan was a good draft pick.
Well, but he didn't.
Robinson.
Right, but Robinson didn't make that pick.
I'm just saying there was a time where he was pretty good.
Yes.
Contrary to popular belief.
Well, exactly. Hey, look, I still think he could be good this year. It's more likely than not to be at least pretty good this year. And if not, then it's going to go poorly for all involved. But Robinson has actually done good things to build an offensive line until recently when it's gone completely the other way.
Yeah. Michelle, you sent us the all-time uniform record rankings with the Titans that has been put out there by the Titans Uni Tracker.
Yeah, isn't that
Twitter.
interesting?
Yeah, the navy and white combo that just got torched by the Jets. 38 and 29 all-time.
Oh. Is that the best?
It is, I think, win percentage-wise, it may be the best.
Wow.
The Navy combo is 21 and 15. Yeah. Now, you got to remember, the Navy-white combo, a lot of that was used when Eddie George and Steve McNair were playing.
That was their
primary jersey. Navy tops, white pants.
Yeah. So
they did a lot of winning.
Yeah, different team.
Yeah.
Similar uniform.
The light blue on light blue, which, it's all right, 3 and 6. The light blue on Navy pants, 34 and 19.
See, that's their best uniform. And their best winning.
Okay, well, my favorite's the white on white, and it's 0-2. So.
Well, that's that's like the different white on white. The white on white, mono white, 6 and 9.
Okay.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Where'd you get this?
At Titans Uni on Twitter.
Okay.
Maybe worth a follow.
I'll follow at Titans Uni. If you've got an Urban Meyer meme for me, I will follow you today.
Right. When we come back, we'll switch gears and get a little bit into the Nashville Predators. An impressive showing the other night against the Lightning. But why there's one combination that they tried that I do not want to see when the regular season begins. We'll get to that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Michelle Knezvik here with you on this Tuesday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Brought to you by Volunteer State Bank. Now with 2 locations in Murfreesboro. Visit their brand new Murfreesboro location at 2019 Memorial Boulevard. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Joe Rexrode, I was in the house at Bridgestone Arena on Saturday night to watch the Predators take down the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, Tampa had, I think, maybe 2 or 3 guys that dressed that were NHL players, so it was basically the AHL team for Tampa Bay coming up. Lots of regulars in the lineup for the Predators on Saturday. They played well, got a lot of looks on the penalty kill, a lot of looks on the power play, some special teams, really a factor in that game on Saturday night, but they get it done 6-1. UC Saros played, looked pretty good in that for the Predators. So all was well so far in the preseason. They did have an interesting combo on Saturday night that I think a lot of fans want to see, that I have been very hesitant to say that the Predators should try this combination out, but we saw it on Saturday. Eeli Tolvanen, Cody Glass, Philip Tomasino. Obviously, those are 3 young guys that are very, I guess the right word would be the Predators fans are very excited about those 3 guys and what they could potentially be for this group, both here in the short term and in the long term as well. Didn't look great together on Saturday night. And it's one preseason game. I realize that it takes a while to get a line going. But my hesitation with putting those 3 together on a line, which a lot of Predators fans want to do, and I understand why. But my hesitation is I think you can have lines that are too young and that don't have the experience required to both be dangerous offensively on a consistent basis, but to also play responsibly defensively as well. And there were moments in that game where they just didn't look all that good, weren't on the attack, and John Hines basically said that after the game and was like, they need to be better if they're going to be a line. So I would not start off with Tolvanen, Glass, and Tomasino together on the line, and I don't think it's very likely that the Predators are going to go that way.
Did people? I mean, I didn't even consider that as like an actual possibility.
Oh, people think it is.
That to me that's a bad idea.
I mean, maybe I get the appeal of it, right? Because those are 3 guys that they've got some speed, especially in the case of Glass and Tomasino. They've got some speed. And then you've got Tolvanen with a shot, which, by the way, he ripped one on the power play the other night right off the crossbar. So right in that spot where we saw him ripping it last year, he's going to be a weapon on the power play this year. But that just, I think it makes more sense when you start looking at specifically the top 6. I feel pretty good about saying that they're going to start with Forsberg, Johansson, and Duchesne as a line. Don't know that, but I'd be surprised if that's not the way they start on opening night. So then, what do you do on that second line? Granlund played at center the other night. I can see him moving to the wing. I can see them keeping him at center. I don't know what they're going to do. I think Granlund is going to be in the top 6. So are you putting Cody Glass up there, or are you putting Granlund back at center and leaving Cunnin up there, which, by the way, Cunnin scored the other night. So some interesting decisions that John Hines is going to have to make. And if you do put Granlund and Cunnin back together, then you do have Cody Glass and Philip Tomasino and Eeli Tolvanen just kind of floating out there.
Well, wait a minute. Well, right. But so are you not assuming Tolvanen's up with
He
them,
could be.
with Granlund?
He could be.
Yeah, because I guess I figured Tomasino would probably have a little bit less pressure and ice time and play like on whatever the third line looks like.
I'd say that's probably the most likely route at this point. I think he's going to make the team. That would be the most likely route. Now, you also have, they tried out Tanner Jeannot on basically the top line the other night. Johansson, Duchesne, and Forsberg didn't play Saturday.
You protect the guy. That's
what I'm saying. Well, I say that because it was intriguing to me because, I've talked about it. I don't necessarily love the idea of all 4 members of the Herd line playing at the same time with Olivier, Jeannot, Trennan, and Sissons. But, Jeannot did show a little bit of offensive push last year. I've wondered if maybe they try to give him a look at a higher role. I don't love the idea, but I wonder if that's something they might do.
And so watching him play now, do you think that that's like remotely feasible?
I would not say that it's not remotely feasible. I would say that is not where I would start. Tanner Jeannot, could he play on the third line and be effective? Probably. And maybe that makes sense where you've got Cody Glass, and maybe you do put him with Tomasino, and Jeannot's your third guy, and he's more of the let's be defensively responsible, let's check everything in sight.
You guys skate around and I'll
just bowl through
hit
people.
everyone.
Could be. I don't know. Maybe that's the way you go.
There's a line I had never considered. Glass, Tomasino, and Jeannot. Okay.
It's interesting.
Okay.
They got a lot of options.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting. I think it's like people want to see the young guys, right? For sure.
Yep.
Together, I think you're asking for trouble there.
Well, and
right
then
away, but go ahead.
Well, there's a guy that we just don't talk about anymore that was in there on Saturday night, scores a goal, makes a great play with an assist, scores in the shootout, which they did a shootout because that's what they do in the preseason. Rocco Grimaldi, he's out there skating around, looks fast, looks good. Does he find a role for himself consistently at all this year? That's going to be my question because, I asked John Hines about it after the game, and John Hines went into detail of, playing with the puck. We're very confident in Rocco Grimaldi. It's playing without it. Can you play without the puck and be defensively responsible? And you look at his analytics, his numbers last year defensively were bad. They were not good. And that's obviously very important to John Hines. Can Grimaldi play better in that area? And like realistically, and I know we don't talk about the size thing as much anymore because when you can skate in the NHL, you've got a spot. But he's 5'6", 180 pounds. Like how effective defensively can you really be when you're 5'6" and 180 pounds?
John Hines has I think, proved very for size and muscle, and not as much for small guys. I mean, like whenever a GM makes moves, I'm always assuming there's a pretty strong communication with the coach, and the Preds just got rid of their two star little guys.
Yeah.
So I honestly have not even considered Grimaldi.
Yeah.
But you're right.
You're not alone.
But he does bring something.
Yeah. I mean, look, he can score. Now, you've got to do more than that, and we understand that. But Rocco, look, he's going to play this year. How consistently is he going to play? Like, right now as the roster stands, I don't see him being in the lineup every night, which, a few years ago it was a given that he was going to be in the lineup. I don't know that that's the case anymore. And then, they've trimmed the roster down to 33, and they put some guys on waivers yesterday, and if they clear, that roster is going to get trimmed down even more. So they're getting close to what the lineup is going to start to look like as the season rolls around. Igor Afanasyev, he's hanging around in camp. He's been pretty good so far.
You surprised Rem Pitlick was waived?
Not really. I mean, everybody just assumes he's going to get picked up today too. I don't know that he's going to get picked up. He might, but I think there's a chance he finds a way through. I look around right now, I don't see a spot for him. And at some point, you got to find a way to break through.
So is that more a comment on maybe he was oversold, or more a comment on there's some other guys who are pleasantly surprising?
It could be a little bit of both. Like, I would have thought Pitlick would have broken through by now, and that honestly, like, this training camp is a pretty good opportunity for him to break through, and it doesn't look like that's going to be the case, at least to start. We'll see what happens on that front, but not looking good for him right now with this group. So Predators back in action tonight, going down to Carolina. One more at home on Saturday against Carolina as well, and then got some practice time, and the season begins on October 14th. So we're just a few weeks away now for some regular season hockey back in the table.
It's next week.
Yeah. I guess we're not in a few weeks away. It is next week, next Saturday.
My gosh.
It gets here quick.
Wait a minute. October 14th?
Or excuse me, next Thursday.
Yeah, okay.
I can't do math.
I was like, wait a minute. Something's not adding up here.
It's next Thursday. That's why I got into journalism. I was told there'd be no math.
Yeah, I'm with you.
When we come back, we'll wrap up the show. Got a lot of your thoughts to get to on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025, The Game. Welcome back in. Final segment of the day here on Robby and Rexrode, brought to you by Volunteer State Bank. Real people, real solutions right here. Remember FDIC, equal housing lender. Taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Gator Tim.
I bet they're good.
On the text line. Please bring Urban Quitter to Tennessee. Vols fans deserve this idiot. So not Urban Meyer, Urban Quitter.
Not a Vols fan then.
Hey,
well, he's Gator Tim.
Gator Tim, how'd you like that game?
Yeah. I guess I could listen to
look at Michelle getting a shot in there, too.
Yeah. You're getting some shots in today. I like it.
Gator Tim also saying the Preds have a lot of options for the bottom six. Too bad they don't have much of a top six.
Well,
there is that. Where's the goals going to come from?
If the big two don't play like the big two, then that's true.
Yeah.
I just made a rhyme.
You did. Josh from White House texting in, what are the odds Lawan was to come back and it's just like suck up all over again? So I guess Josh saying if the Titans move on from Lawan and he comes back and plays really well, what are the odds that happens?
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible that, who knows, this year could just be a wash. I mean, I don't think that'll happen, but it hasn't been very good for most of his time on the field. So he's still got – it's not like he's ancient. He could still be good somewhere else. But there are also 13 games left this year for him to try to figure this out as well. But the question I do have on that is how good does he have to be for them to stay committed to him? But the other question on the other side of that is, okay, so you want to go search for a left tackle?
How's that going?
Right.
Searching for any tackle.
I mean, it's very easy to say, get him out of here. He's not good enough. He doesn't earn that money. But again, who are you getting there? How much are you paying them? And what does that do to your offense if you can't find someone is good? There's still plenty of time for him to keep himself here.
Ron texting in, if you had to choose an NHL team to be in the thick of things, come in the playoffs and win it all, who would it be? I'm trying to pick a team to enter a competition we're having at work. Well, we'll get to our Stanley Cup picks next week at some point. Yeah, it could be. I mean, off the top of my head, there are a few that stand out, but, there is a team that's won 2 cups in a row that looks pretty strong again this year.
They've lost some guys. They've had to.
They brought in Corey Perry, so they're at least getting to the final.
Well, that means they're going to lose.
Well,
that means they're going to lose in the final.
Could be.
Are you buying Colorado?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're just too good.
Yeah.
Yeah. They'll figure it out.
They're kind of a classic example. And look, Tampa went through this for a while too of you're really good every regular season and you can't get it done in the playoffs. Tampa to varying degrees. They got to some conference finals and a Stanley Cup final as well. So it's a little bit different. But eventually, Colorado, they're just too good not to break through. They're eventually going to make a deep run. I'd be surprised if they don't.
They just need to say bleep it, man.
Yeah. I forgot about that. Looking forward to seeing him back on the beat this year. That'll be something. Oh, man. Let's go back to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Vincent from Dixon texting in. Has anyone rushed for 2,000 yards in a 14-game season? Should all others after OJ have an asterisk by their name? So going back to if Derrick Henry breaks the all-time rushing record this year.
Right, yeah. No, it's a fair point. And that is, he is the only one, right? OJ the only one who did it in a 14? Yeah, 2003.
As he said on a very interesting Twitter feed as well that OJ Simpson operates.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, I can't bring myself to follow him.
I don't either.
Although I'm sure it's very interesting. Yeah, it doesn't mean you don't see it. There's plenty of people I should just block that I don't want to see any of their crap. That's a good point. All the other ones are 16. OJ certainly. Does anyone think with OJ and that team, if he had 2 more games, that he wouldn't have the record over Eric Dickerson right now? He absolutely would.
Yeah.
So if Eric Dickerson is known as the guy who has the record now for 37 years, even though we all know that he wouldn't, then I guess Derrick Henry is just the guy with no asterisk if he gets it.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. If Derrick Henry goes back-to-back 2,000-yard seasons,
Hall of Fame.
There's no asterisk next to anything.
Alex on YouTube. Saffold is basically a tight end after that last game. We can't afford to give him 2 salaries. That's something we've not talked about. Great catch by Roger Saffold on Sunday. in a screen pass. Not intended for Roger Saffold.
Yeah. Hey, you
turned upfield too.
Use your instinct. Yeah, ready to try to tackle me now. Maybe they need to scheme something up to get him the ball.
Yeah, maybe so. That was an interesting play.
Yeah, that was. I don't know exactly what happened on that one. That was one of those that didn't really get asked about because there's just so many other issues to get to first.
Yes, there were. Speaking of the Nashville Predators, make sure you remember hockey is back. And the Preds are painting the town gold. Beginning October 2nd, Bridgestone Arena requiring all guests to show proof of their full COVID vaccination or a negative test within 72 hours of an event. More information on that can be found at bridgestonearena.com/clear. And make sure you get in on ticket action. Remember, the outdoor game coming up, the logo announced yesterday by the Predators and the NHL. The outdoor game coming up in February, the 2022 Navy Federal Credit Union NHL Stadium Series between the Preds and the Tampa Bay Lightning at Nissan Stadium. So now is the best time to become a season ticket citizen. For more information on Predators tickets, you can go to NashvillePredators.com/tickets. Once again, that's NashvillePredators.com/tickets. Good show today. We'll see by the time we get on the air tomorrow what happens with Urban Meyer.
He is pure gold.
Yes, he is.
Pure like Duval.
Do we think he's going to have his job by this time tomorrow? I say yeah. I don't think they're going to fire him.
Yeah,
but you never know that guy, man.
They can't, right? They're not.
They can.
That. They can, but they're not going to do that. If so, it's about to pick up today. Quickly.
Yes, it is. We'll see what happens on that front. That does it for us today here on Robby and Rexrode. Darren, Donick, and Chase is coming up next. Make sure you stay tuned all day long to ESPN 102.5 The Game.